Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. Hope your week is unfolding beautifully. We have a tremendous stream planned ahead. Big updates on the grand conspiracy case. Of course, this is the matter that is percolating out of Florida, Southern District, in fact, in front of Judge Cannon, it's rumored, and it involves John Brennan, former CIA director, James Comey, people like Andy McCabe, we know who he is, and hopefully many others. Over 130 subpoenas have now gone out. We've got some updates on it. We've got the DOJ prosecutors now requesting information from other entities, presumably for use in their prosecution. And so the question is, are charges coming soon? We'll unpack a lot of updates today and then go down memory lane to see, now that we have this new information, maybe we can parse together what the charges will be and what the basis of the prosecution will look like. So all that coming up in our first segment. Then some updates out of California. We have the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, out there who panicked yesterday, made a petition up to the Court of Appeals to stop the count, stop Sheriff Chad Bianco over there in Riverside, who's running for governor, from actually investigating a weird anomaly of 45,000 additional ballots that were somehow added into the count. And he just got slapped down in a very short order. But we got some updates on that. Then we'll come over to Arizona, where we'll find that Adrian Fontes, the Secretary of State, was trying to do something very sneaky and rename a political party, and he got slapped down. So a couple of good updates here on some of the election fraudsters who are trying to rig the rules around the margins, and they're losing. Then we've got a voter ID victory. We are going over to Missouri, where the Missouri Supreme Court said that voter ID, which was passed by the voters, is perfectly valid. Another one of these lawsuits that was brought by these NGOs and these organizations in order to try to adjust the election rules. And they just lost big time, and some final demands from Representative Luna on the SAVE Act and what should happen with the Senate before they leave town for the Easter recess. So it's going to be a beautiful day, my friends. Thanks for joining and subscribing to our channel. My name is Robert Gouveia. I'm a formerly practicing criminal defense attorney, now practicing in the court of public opinion to hold these people accountable. This is Watching the Watchers, and we're very happy to have you here. We're making sure the tubes are connected appropriately before we start popping off here, and it looks like we've connected. Thank you, friends, for joining us on this busy afternoon and evening. But let's get right into it. As you can see, we've got updates on the grand conspiracy probe. Federal prosecutors now picking up the pace in the grand conspiracy probe, now getting access to more classified information that we presume will be used when criminal charges are filed. Of course, they haven't done that yet. They need to make their decision. But once they've gobbled up what they need, once the evidence is in their possession, they'll be able to make the right judgment call. And this is expanding massively. We now see from CNN Politics that federal prosecutors are getting classified House documents. So the House of Representatives have done their own investigation and done their own interviews and internal briefings and all the things. And now federal prosecutors are getting their hands on them, which means that's evidence. This is in the Brennan probe. John Brennan, the former CIA director under Obama, who was, in my opinion, the centerpiece of a lot of this criminality because he was engineering the 2017 ICA to be created that was backfilled with Hillary Clinton campaign propaganda. And we've got a little trip down memory lane here as we connect the dots on exactly what this probe and this prosecution will look like. But we recall that there were multiple criminal referrals for him and James Comey that we'll review. And we also saw that he is littered all over this Tradecraft review, which was published just under a year ago, back in June 2025. His name is riddled throughout this document, and so we'll connect the dots here. But what we see is that the CNN is reporting, and this actually broke from Punchbowl News, but they say yesterday, last night, last evening, behind closed doors, the House Intelligence Committee voted Tuesday to give federal prosecutors classified records related to John Brennan. A committee spokesman told them this, and this is signaling that the DOJ investigation into this guy may be heading towards, dun 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 dun, possible charges, and we are waiting for this one. The committee held the vote behind closed doors, a source said, and the records will not be made public. The vote came after the DOJ requested the documents from the committee, and federal prosecutors have for months worked to build a case against Brennan. We're starting to see it come together over allegations that he lied to Congress, and I have the clip of him lying to Congress queued up here for us. This was about a years ago intelligence assessment on Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election, which really led to the Robert Mueller special counsel appointment. It led to the first impeachment proceedings. And there's another person who is also the subject of newly declassified materials, at least for the DOJ. In other words, the House and the Senate are sending other information back over to Pam Bondi. Now, one of the records that the committee will turn over is a transcript of an interview with Brennan. So Brennan gets hauled in front of Congress. We see all of these closed door sessions, right? They always break, and some of this is public, but a lot of it is not. And there is probably some pretty damning things in there that will be used, his own statements under oath against him to support the argument that he's a liar. Now, an attorney for Brennan declined to comment. He's repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. And if we recall, he sent a letter over to the chief judge, who is the main judge who is presiding over the grand jury investigation, begging, essentially whining to the judge to ask her to step in and stop this from happening. He is freaked out. I think he knows how screwed he is. An attorney for Brennan didn't want to talk about it. Punchbowl News broke the story. And earlier this month, prosecutors in Miami, which is where this is happening, and the guy who is leading this is Jason Quinones, who was Trump's first U.S. attorney who was ultimately appointed. Many other U.S. attorneys that have attempted to be appointed by the Trump administration have been rejected. We've got the blue slip, Chuck Grassley, the Judiciary Committee, and it's been a very difficult ordeal to try to get our people in place. Now, we've got subpoenas over to the former FBI director, one of the other guys who was also involved in the setup, seeking years of records related to the IC assessment of the Russian meddling, which was all fake based on the Steele dossier, which Hillary Clinton created, according to multiple people familiar with the matter. Now, both the Comey subpoena and the DOJ request for the records from Congress are key steps that prosecutors would need to take before deciding whether or not to bring charges. And we sure hope they decide to do it. Brennan's lawyers have been bracing for a possible indictment for months, and he is freaked out. You could hear him talking on CNN or on MS Now about this. He seems a little bit nervous, squirming around in his chair. Career prosecutors in Miami have signaled to the DOJ that they don't believe the case against Brennan is a strong one. We disagree, but we have continued to work towards possibly bringing it in a DC federal court as well. Now, Brennan told House investigators back in 2017 that Russia, quote, brazenly interfered in U.S. elections, including actively contacting members of Trump's campaign, but he stopped shy of dubbing it collusion. And it's so ridiculous. The investigation into the Russian election interference ultimately did not find that Trump's campaign or his associates conspired with Russia, or that Trump committed a crime. That's right, because Brennan made it up, because they didn't do that at all. But the investigation also did not exonerate the president as well. Robert Mueller, who's now dead, was somebody who was unleashed to go dog the first 2+ years of the administration, leading to his impeachment. They tried to remove him from power. It was all a setup. And by the way, they did it again, as we saw in the 2024 election when they were prosecuting him all over the country. And they're going to continue this pattern unless they're stopped. Trump is not going to run again, probably. But the point is, every time and every person who gets away with this is going to come back onto the playing field if there's not actual justice that stops them from doing it again. Now, through a mix of presidential powers, including executive orders, CNN is a hack website. They sought retribution. It's not retribution. It's called justice, morons. Who wrote this dumb article? Hannah, idiot. So Rabinowitz, Hannah, is saying it's retribution. It's called justice. Your own article even says that Brennan was basically lying to Congress when he said that they brazenly interfered in U.S. elections. No, they didn't. So we also saw that James Comey got subpoenaed in the grand conspiracy case against Trump. And Axios reported that 2 sources with knowledge told them the same. saying the investigation has now produced over 130 subpoenas since they ratcheted this thing up last year, according to a couple sources, and it's going after top officials who worked under Obama and Biden. The officials, including Comey, have all decried the investigation as political prosecution and lawfare because that's all they do is just whine about it. They're the ones who made a fake 2017 ICA. They fed it to the media. They leaked it. James Comey, by the way, leaked it to Daniel Richman, in my opinion, who was his media leaker. And they released it all to the media. And then the FBI investigated the leaks. And guess what? They found that nothing happened. Very convenient. So Trump and the grand conspiracy theory says that they broke the rules, they lied under oath, and we're going to piece it all together here to explain. The Comey subpoena was issued last week, relates to his alleged role in the 2017 ICA. And if you remember, Obama got a presidential daily brief that said there was no Russian interference. Then all these hacks got together and they're like, well, we need to launch an intelligence operation against the incoming duly elected President Trump before he takes office. And this was released back in early January before Trump was sworn in January 20. So they released it. The assessment referenced the now widely discredited Steele dossier, which was a Hillary Clinton propaganda piece. We have a tradecraft review we're going to look at. And several of these people have been referred by the new CIA director, John Ratcliffe, referred Comey and Brennan for prosecution. Now, while popular with the online right, I guess that's Americans who care about justice, they are defending this. Judge Eileen Cannon is in on this. She is impaneling the grand jury in the Southern District of Florida, and she is one of the only legitimate federal judges who actually applies the law appropriately. Many others are not. So Brennan is central to the case. He's accused of lying to Congress. I have the clip pulled up. And Jason A. Redding Quinones is the guy who is now assembling all of this together down in Florida. And we hope that he's finding tremendous success. Now, here was the clip from John Brennan, if you recall this one, in front of Trey Gowdy. And Trey was asking him about that Steele dossier, about the Hillary Clinton created with the help of guys like Mark Elias and Michael Sussman, who were Hillary Clinton's campaign lawyers at the time, who all lied about it. When they were asked by the FBI, Michael Sussman said, was asked, are you here on behalf of a client? He said, no, I'm just a good person. I'm just trying to bring evidence to the FBI. Turns out he was Hillary's campaign lawyer. So here's the clip of Brennan lying, in my opinion, through his teeth to Congress, for which he should be prosecuted. Here's how it sounds.
A portion of the Steele dossier.
I don't know. I know that there are press reports related to that, but I don't know. I have no firsthand knowledge of that.
Do you know whether any of the underlying allegations made in the Steele dossier were ever tested, probed, examined, cross-examined, whether the sources were examined for reliability, credibility?
I know that there were efforts made by the Bureau to try to understand whether or not any of the information in that was valid, but I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done. It was not.
Yes, it was. It was in the 2017 ICA. You put it in a classified annex, and then he lied through his teeth about it. And if you recall, we also saw that we had this release from John Ratcliffe, director of the CIA. And if you do a little Control F for Brennan on this, they confirm that Brennan actually did include it. Following the coordination meeting when they were having a conversation about this, the then director of the NSA, called Mike Rogers, wrote to then DCIA John Brennan, the director of the CIA, to say that my analysts were not fully comfortable with everything that you have told us to create. We did not have enough time to review all of the intelligence to be absolutely confident in our assessment, but they had to race this thing through because Trump was coming in just a few days. And if they couldn't get it in, then that would have been damning for their intelligence operation against the president. And there are several more conversations. Here was one. Brennan said that Putin, quote, aspired to help Trump win in the report. And he had tightly restricted access to this information within the CIA. Nobody could see it other than him. And he created all of these groups to help facilitate the intelligence attack. And in his book, he also reveals that he established crucial elements of the process with the White House before the NIC involvement, stating that he informed them that the CIA would take the lead in drafting the report. It continues. Brennan also sent a note to the CIA workforce stating that he had met with the DNI and the FBI director and that there was a strong consensus among us about the intent of Russian interference. And all of this was Brennan poisoning the pot. You have to do and follow what I'm intimating so that we can get the outcome that we needed. There was another email exchange in December 20 when the deputy director of the CIA, called David Cohen, he informed Brennan that the director for national intelligence had called to register concerns with the process. So the standard tradecraft in order to produce a good, reliable report was bypassed. Brennan downplayed the concern. He responded to Cohen. He said, well, you know, the big three, we can agree. We don't need other agencies to get involved in this. And they ended up writing the report. Now, Brennan ultimately formalized his position in writing. Okay, so all of this is written down on the record. He said, my bottom line is that I believe that the information warrants inclusion in the report. What information? The Steele dossier. Okay, it was Hillary's campaign propaganda. They knew about it. They shoved it in there, and now he's lying through his teeth. Now, there were several referrals that were made to Pam Bondi, so hopefully she is taking action on this. The CIA has obviously made their referral, and now we also saw that some time ago, the Judiciary Committee also made their referral. This one coming in, signed off on by Jim Jordan, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. And we've gone through this, so we'll just hit the highlights on it, but you can see how the dots are connecting. What crime? This crime, 18 U.S. Code, where a witness commits a crime, 18 U.S. Code, section 1001, criminal violation if you knowingly and willingly make a materially false statement to Congress or any one of their committees. And Brennan did just that. On January 6th, the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA published a declassified version of the ICA. They said, oh no, the Russians interfered. It said that Trump had Russia develop a clear preference for him, and they aspired to help him win. Now, this conclusion, now known to be false, was based on the Steele dossier. It was referenced in the ICA main body text, so in the main document, and further detailed in a classified annex. Okay, the name, they said, well, we've got evidence. Well, where's the evidence come from? Well, it's classified. Where's the classification? It's in an annex. Okay, and then they all presented evidence about that. So you can see a couple other exchanges. Matt Gaetz was there, and it was interesting to see Kash Patel back there too when he was testifying. There's Kash back there if you missed it, right there. And Brennan, of course, lied to Matt Gaetz and lied to Trey Gowdy. So Matt Gaetz said, all right, okay, so the fact that the DNC, the Hillary Democrats, was providing the financing for the Steele dossier, that doesn't give you concern that it might be partisan, that the Democrats literally paid for this? Again, you know, that was happening back in 2016, said Brennan. I understand how you were able to tie this to my expertise, but I don't see how that's relevant to Hunter Biden and the laptop right now. Well, you said that you signed this letter that we now know acknowledged Joe Biden misused in a debate to fool the American public, said Gaetz. So I'm trying to understand your Russia expertise. Are you involved, and were you involved in analyzing this information? No, I was not involved in analyzing the dossier at all. I said the first time I actually saw it, it was after the election. And lie. And the CIA was not involved at all with the dossier. Yes, you were, John. We know you were. Were you aware of the FBI's involvement with the dossier? Well, yeah, because there's an annex in the ICA and the intelligence community assessment that the Bureau wanted to be included. So he's blaming the FBI. It was their purview, their area, not ours at all. But we now have this aftermath report from the new CIA that confirms that in writing, he says, my bottom line is that I believe the information warrants inclusion in the report. The dude is totally screwed if they will bring the charges. It's like a rhyme. A report drafted also in 2017, recently declassified, shows that Brennan's testimony is false. He's a liar. According to the report, the ICA included supporting evidence for that. The report referenced the reader to Annex A, and it was only included Annex A in the highest classified version of the report. And it summarized the Steele dossier. That was the basis for the whole thing. They put our country through hell over a fake Russia collusion hoax. We're still suffering with the aftermath of that, by the way. Trump is still dogged as somebody who was installed by Putin. Ultimately, according to documents now declassified, the decision to incorporate this was jointly made by the FBI and the CIA. He said he wasn't involved at all. Here was another exchange from Jordan. Jordan said, well, who'd you learn about the Steele dossier from there, John? How'd you learn about the dossier in December? He said, I received a copy of it from the FBI. When they were wanting to have a summary of that document attached to the intelligence community assessment that was done. This was before we went to Trump Tower and briefed Trump when James Comey was going to go talk to Trump about that. And he said, again, lie. And the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the dossier in the ICA. Nope. John Ratcliffe has you in writing there, buddy, saying that you wanted it in there and that you believed it deserved to be in there. So they sent a copy over, and that's when the CIA was given formal access to it. So again, it's contradicted, on and on and on. He again lied in 2017 from Gouveia. Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier? I have no awareness. Did the CIA rely on it? No. Why not? Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence. Yeah, it was. It was not in any way used as a basis for the ICA that was done. It was not. He's a liar. So in sum, John Brennan deserves to be prosecuted for 18 U.S. Code Section 1001, false testimony to Congress. Signed sincerely, Jim Jordan, over there in the House of Representatives. And it continues on. Now, Bonta has confirmed that she's received both of these things. This was over about a month and a half ago, back in February. Jim Jordan's referral received by Bonta, now hopefully passed off to Jason Quinones down there in Florida. And we have more developments. So it continues to drop. The House Intelligence Committee also just voted out transcripts from another person who was involved in much of this. There were 2019 hearings with the former Intelligence Community Inspector General called Michael Atkinson. This guy is seen here. Michael Kevin Atkinson, an American attorney, worked at the DOJ for 15 years before becoming the second Inspector General of the IC. And the Inspector General is supposed to be independent and nonpartisan and go after the agencies that are doing bad things internally. He assumed office back 2018 during Trump's first term. Now, he's known for alerting Congress in September 2019 about a whistleblower complaint that was Trump pressuring Ukraine to go investigate Joe Biden. Remember that phone call? The scandal ultimately led to Trump's impeachment and acquittal. And this guy's been running around free too. So the Intelligence Committee then has now voted to release information about him, saying the 2019 hearings were held to examine Atkinson's role in an alleged whistleblower complaint, which ultimately led to the Democrats' first impeachment efforts against Trump in 2019. More from them. They shared this. Today, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence held a business meeting, and let's boost this up a little bit, held a business meeting to consider multiple committee actions. During the business meeting, the committee voted in favor of releasing two transcripts from the 2019 hearings with the former IC Inspector General called Michael Atkinson. The hearings were held to examine Atkinson's role in an alleged whistleblower complaint, which ultimately led to Democrats' first impeachment efforts against Trump. One transcript would be released to Tulsi Gabbard and the ODNI for classification review, and then subsequently released to the public by the committee with the second unclassified transcript, and we're looking forward to that one too. Chairman Crawford on the Intelligence Committee said, the great deal of widespread speculation about his classified hearing transcript is indicative of the American people's complete and warranted mistrust of the intelligence community. In far too many instances, the IC hides behind the veil of overclassification. Sometimes sunlight is the best disinfectant. We agree. As part of the committee's continued effort to balance the transparency the American people deserve and the need to protect sensitive national security information, we hope that the release of these transcripts allows the American people to make their own determinations. And as chairman, I remain committed to ensuring this committee, where possible, is transparent as the IC works to rebuild trust with the American people. Good luck with that. So the transcripts will be posted on the committee website once they undergo the standard classification review with the Office of the DNI. That's Tulsi Gabbard's team. So more stuff is coming out. Now, the House is going to hopefully be releasing Atkinson, and the Brennan transcripts have also gone over to the DOJ. And we're looking forward to having all of this assembled in a nice, big, beautiful indictment. Doesn't have the same alliteration as Big Beautiful Bill, but one incredible indictment. We need another I word in there. Hopefully you guys can help me out with that. But here was John Ratcliffe. This was last year. He explained exactly what he had found as he released this tradecraft review that we just refreshed our recollection with.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. DNI Gabbard has made referrals.
Yeah.
And why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word. So what I think I hear you saying is there is still
possibilities of indictments. And we're looking forward to seeing those come down the line. Now, Catherine Herridge sat down with this guy, and he explains that Michael Caputo, this is Michael Caputo, longtime Trump advisor, he got subpoenaed. He said, as Comey is subpoenaed in Florida as part of the Trump conspiracy probe, which does include John Brennan, this advisor called Michael Caputo said that John Brennan, to me, he's the definition of government gone wrong. And that's an understatement. To me, he's also the definition, like Comey, of a demon. There we go. Prowling around the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Brennan is a bad, bad, bad man. Here is Mr. Caputo on with Catherine Herridge. We love her.
It looks like former FBI Director James Comey is going to escape prosecution. And you think what?
Oh, I think that that he should be prosecuted. I don't think that there are people, probably career people within the DOJ, have no interest in this. There are people, I think, who are even more guilty than Comey. From the start of the Obama effort to falsify intelligence on the Russians.
And who falls into that bucket?
Brennan, of course.
That's the former CIA director.
John Brennan, to me, he's the definition of government gone wrong. To me, he's also the definition, like Comey, of a demon prowling around the world seeking the ruin of souls. Brennan is a bad man. And I think that my understanding is there's not just one way to go for him. There are many ways he left himself vulnerable. If we don't pursue them all the way down to the minutia, then we have no hope for our republic.
Nice. And I think he's right about that. Now, I'm not so sure that James Comey is going to escape indictment. He, of course, was charged in the Eastern District of Virginia for lying to Congress, but that was a solo standalone charge. And that was in Virginia. Lindsay Halligan brought those charges. And then ultimately, she got booted off the case. Now we've got a statute of limitations problem. So that expired. So, of course, the question is, how can you bring them back? The answer is conspiracy. The most recent overt acts that were a part of the conspiracy, in this case, it would be the cover-up. That, I think, would be an extension of the conspiracy. The most recent overt act that furthers the conspiracy means that the statute of limitations would start at that most recent overt act. And that happened, arguably, the cover-up occurred when they lost the 2024 election. When Trump was coming in on the way out, I would even argue that bundling up all of the records and putting them in the secret SCIF, the 1.9 million page SCIF, if there's any evidence about the ICA or the Russia collusion hoax or Arctic frost or anything that kind of led to this, that you can tie all the way back to Comey and Brennan, that's what we'll get as the most recent overt act that will enable additional prosecutions. And thank you for the help there, chat. Impeccable. It is an impeccable, incredible indictment. Yes, sounds great. So here's more. The DOJ is also talking now in response about another weaponization, which was really more of an extension. The first one was pretty useful for them. They got a full impeachment. They stole 2 years out of the administration. They imprisoned a bunch of Trump's allies back at the time, Mike Flynn, Paul Manafort, and others, Roger Stone, all got arrested as a result of the Russia collusion hoax. And many other people were indicted and went to jail for it, even though they didn't do anything wrong. They were the target of lawfare. Then they reinvigorated the entire operation back in 2024, and they prosecuted Trump this time. They went after the big guy. And what they did, not that big guy, the big president, and they tried to take him out with 4 prosecutions. They created the January 6th hoax, and they used that to impeach him again. And we know how the aftermath of that went over the last 4 years. So now we've got accountability hopefully coming for Jack Smith and his crew. But the Democrats came out and they were saying the Justice Department may have violated a gag order on the Jack Smith case in the Trump classified documents case by inadvertently sharing sealed grand jury materials with Congress. And what they're trying to do again is poison the prosecution. Just like John Brennan did when Brennan sent a letter over to the chief judge right here. This is from Brennan back December 2025. Cecilia M. Altanaga. They said, Dear Chief Judge, this is John Brennan. I'm totally freaked out. I do not want to get charged with any crimes. And so they sent this back in. They say, I know there's a grand jury investigation here. Trump and the new DOJ is going to prosecute us for our interference. Okay, the Russians didn't interfere in the election. The CIA did. The FBI did. Back in the 2016 presidential election, and they had no idea that Trump was going to win. They thought they had the whole thing all wrapped up with a bow on it. And now he sent this 17-page letter over to the judge, and we've looked at it before. It's just a whiny screed, essentially. They're saying this is forum shopping, and how dare you hear this case? You, the chief judge, should direct Judge Eileen Cannon to stop the investigation, which is what they do. They try to go above and around in order to avoid addressing it at the outset. Now, as we already saw, very damning evidence. The transcript is there. You can read it. It's on its face. But he says, I did everything possible, and the conclusion was supported by every serious review that followed the ICA when no one knew. All of these reviews, the point here is that nobody knew about the classified annex. It was tucked away. So even when you present it to the Senate or to Robert Mueller or those people, they didn't see what it was all pretexted on. And they couldn't come to the appropriate conclusion until Trump came back in and we started to unravel the truth of this. So, of course, they're doing the same thing with Jack Smith and the other prosecutions. And the DOJ Rapid Response account posted this on X today. They said, we understand that Jamie Raskin is a lunatic, just like Jack Smith. He is blinded by hatred of President Trump. However, he needs to get his facts straight. This DOJ is the most transparent in history, in part because of our efforts to expose the weaponization of the Biden administration in full compliance with the law and the court. Jack Smith's team was desperate to prosecute Biden's top political opponent, Trump. So it's no surprise that his files contain salacious and untrue claims about Trump. Now, the accusations of Raskin are baseless. Judge Cannon's protective order was not violated. None of the documents produced by the DOJ violated the rules, as none of them disclosed matters that were before the grand jury. The documents marked 6E contained redactions of any 6E material, idiot. So as an attorney and law professor, Raskin, law professor. One must assume that Raskin understands this. He doesn't. He doesn't care about the Constitution or the law. He cares about winning. reveals this letter is nothing more than a cheap political stunt, almost as if taking cues from members of the corrupt Jack Smith prosecution team. And until they're in jail, why would they not continue to do this? It's like they keep getting away with this. So why would they stop? They wouldn't, and they're not going to. In fact, they're now threatening. Susan Rice is saying, as soon as we're back in charge, we're coming for all of you. And we're like crack addicts, so we're going to make sure that we put you in jail. Now, here's more. We saw Ted Cruz was out, and he said, there are major double standards here. Would you be troubled? We made this point yesterday. Would you be troubled if the Trump DOJ was issuing subpoenas for the phone records of every single Democrat that sits on the Judiciary Committee? They'd lose their friggin' minds. It'd be Trump is a fascist. If they went and got Nancy Pelosi's records or Hakeem Jeffries' records or Chuck Schumer's records or Jamie Raskin's records, there would be a 5-alarm fire meltdown all across the country from the media, from the Democratic Party. This is fascism. They say it's fascism if you deport an illegal alien, for crying out loud. So here's what Ted Cruz had to say about this. And this might be why the Republicans may be struggling on this, is because they don't play by the same way, right? Republicans are playing tic-tac-toe. Democrats have knives out and they're stabbing people in the neck. Here's what Ted Cruz said recently.
Senator Menendez is currently incarcerated in prison for corruption. And if you've got evidence of criminal conduct of one individual, the Department of Justice has an obligation to investigate that. Would you agree that's qualitatively different than a fishing expedition targeting 20% of the Republicans in the Senate? Would you agree that's qualitatively different?
I'm not familiar with the details of either investigation, so
of course
I wouldn't
not
want to speculate.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you be troubled if tomorrow the Trump Department of Justice issued a subpoena for the phone records of every Democrat that sits on the Judiciary Committee?
Not if it was based on factual evidence, specific and articulable facts.
Well, let me be clear. I'd be damn troubled. And that would be an abuse of power. And I'm going to predict not a single Democrat's going to say even a word about the abuse of power on their side. And that double standard is troubling. Senator Lee.
Yeah, so maybe they should go get them. Go get their phone records. Okay, there's good precedent here. Judge Boasberg already signed off on it. In fact, go to Beryl Howell, the judge in D.C. Go ask her. Hey, we want to breach attorney-client privilege of every single Democrat member. We saw that you love the idea when they were going after Trump's lawyers and Trump's people and people with executive privilege in the administration who were going to claim that. You encouraged a big omnibus motion. We covered the whole story yesterday. So surely, Judge Beryl, you're not a partisan hack, are you? You're not going to impose a double standard for our side when we request the same thing. Of course, we know that's obviously not true. They do have double standards. Their only standard is winning and beating their political opponents because it's basically a communist takeover that we're living through. But here was Caroline Leavitt today responding to the Democrat allegations that the DOJ is doing something bad. Again, if you don't want to get charged, go around the charges. Okay, go to a different court, like we're seeing in Fulton County. Go sue to get your criminal files back so that you can cover up evidence of your crime. You have a murder weapon that's going to implicate you. Go see if you can find another judge who will order it back to you. And then boom, there's no evidence that they can use to prosecute you. Amazing. Or go above the judge. Go up to the chief judge, like in Florida, and whine and moan to her about it. Or in this case, try to poison the prosecution, right? Try to use the media, pound the table. The whole thing's illegal. Get all of your allies that are out there in the mainstream and encourage them to say this is fascism and that this is retribution. Every single stinking article that we look at here always says Trump's political retribution, Trump's attack on his political enemies. It's all about justice, and they just are perverting the mindset to try to, I don't know, maybe sway the jury so that the jury comes in and thinks, wait a minute, is this political retribution? I don't want to be voting in favor of a fascist, do I? So Caroline came out appropriately and blasted the Democrats for this scam that continues.
I saw that letter from Congressman Raskin this morning, who I would add has zero credibility, and this letter was clearly a cheap political stunt. What the congressman did here, Brian, and for everyone in the room who's hopefully not reporting on this as fact, is that he took untrue and salacious claims in a memo that was produced by Jack Smith, who has been completely discredited for his lawfare and his witch hunts against this president. And that information was unverified. It never even made it into the indictment because it was so unverified. And what happened to that indictment anyway? It was thrown out. And Jack Smith has been proven, again, to be a prosecutor on a witch hunt against President Trump. He tried to throw him in jail ahead of the 2024 election. The Biden Department of Justice was fully on board with this lawfare campaign. And in fact, this story that was concocted by Congressman Raskin was so ridiculous. I understand his communications team reached out to some outlets in this room who responsibly said, we're not going to write this because this is just too much. However, of course, MS Now did write that story this morning because they continue to be left-wing propaganda for the Democrat Party. But I think Jack Smith has been proven to be a liar and a fraud.
Nice.
And this is, again, a cheap political stunt from a Democrat on Capitol Hill who I think wants to get himself on cable television.
Nice. I think that's exactly right. And we know that there's a lot of frustration out there. Your boy has some included, that we haven't seen accountability from any of these people. We've seen a lot of statute of limitations presumably come and go, and they seemingly have expired. But let's not forget, when Trump got prosecuted for his fake made-up crimes, many of those came after the midterms back in 2022. The midterms, 2022, Joe Biden came, 2022, and then the charges came in the aftermath of that, right? So people come and take office 2023. A lot of the charges were like in July and August in the run up to the election. And so these things take time. So as soon as Joe Biden came in 2021, boom, they hit the ground running. They start colluding with Alvin Bragg, Matthew Colangelo. They start moving the pieces around. Fani Willis starts getting on the case. We're going to open an investigation. They're going to give her a book tour, all the things. And then Nathan Wade comes in, starts indicting Fani like every single night. And then he goes and starts colluding with the J6 committee. They need the J6 committee to do all of the investigations, to then spread that fake information around and help organize, like the centerpiece, all of the prosecutions and make sure that they can stay on track. So it all then gets dished out to Fani. Jack Smith comes and inherits the case after Trump announces he's running. Then we get the charges in 2023. So we start to see that if the timelines are the same, the DOJ may be working on this thing all the way through and until after the midterms, because they do take time. Jason Quinones is down there in Florida. Brennan has now had his transcripts delivered to the federal prosecutors. Comey's gotten subpoenaed. We know that there are over 130 additional subpoenas that have all come out. And I saw a great question in the chat about how do they prosecute in Florida if some of the crimes did not occur in Florida? And the argument there that I think we're probably going to see is about the effects of the conspiracy. Okay, Trump was the victim of these crimes. These crimes were orchestrated outside of Florida, but he was in Florida where all of the effects of the conspiracy were landing upon him, right? They tried to put him in jail down there. That's where he was residing, and he was the subject of the conspiracy. So it would be a little bit problematic if you could concoct and create a conspiracy in a very favorable jurisdiction and then target everybody outside the jurisdiction, knowing that there's nothing that could happen to you because you're protected, for example, in Washington, D.C. by the D.C. federal judges. So we'll probably see some sort of argument that mirrors that. Trump, as the victim of this national crime, was residing and situated in Florida. And because the conspiracy occurred outside of Florida, doesn't mean that they can't charge him there because he was the prime subject and the prime victim of the conspiracy. So hopefully we get some more updates on this, and we're excited to see some more transcripts come out. And you can tell they're very, very nervous about this. John Brennan, James Comey know that there's a lot happening underneath the waterline, and we'll be here to cover it. Thank you for joining us and subscribing as we do. All right, now we're not done yet. Let's turn our attention to some more updates on the election shenanigans that are happening out there and what's going on in California and in Arizona. California Attorney General crushed in his panicked attempt to get a court of appeals to stop the count of the votes that were seized by Sheriff Chad Bianco. 650,000 ballots now in his possession. A special master has been appointed, and Rob Bonta over here does not want the investigation to proceed. And so yesterday, he filed an emergency petition to try to stop everything from happening. And now he has lost. And he lost very quickly. Here's the docket and what exactly went down. You can see it happened very rapidly. 323, he filed the motion. He had a bunch of other requests. The Court of Appeals confirmed that they got the information, the filings that had come in. Then on the 24th, yesterday, we see that the court was reviewing these things. And then almost immediately, they denied it. The writ of petition that was requested, the writ of a petition with a stay was all requested. And here you see at the end of the day, it was denied. The request also denied, and he loses. And the basis for this is that he filed it incorrectly. He filed it in the wrong location. Cal Matters gives us some more background on this. You can see this is Chad Bianco. He's running for governor out there. And they say a California court on Tuesday quickly denied Rob Bonta's panicked request to halt the sheriff and his efforts to recount the ballots back from 2025. In an unprecedented move, Chad Bianco, a Republican who is running for governor, sees 650,000 ballots and is conducting a recount of the vote. Now, Bonta's office earlier ordered Chad Bianco and the Riverside sheriffs to pause its work, saying, "We have grave concerns. You can't investigate this in a criminal investigation." And I'm really enjoying and appreciating how the criminal investigations are advancing these arguments. Remember how many, if you've been here a while, civil lawsuits we've covered? You have the third parties or even state lawsuits that are civil in nature. They sue. The judges just say, well, you know, it's sort of 50-50. We'll kind of dismiss it. And you have really no shot at it, whether it's standing or mootness or latches or whatever justiciability argument that is made. Lawsuits are all getting dismissed. When you have a criminal prosecution, when in Fulton County, the FBI gets a search warrant and goes and picks up the ballots, when here the sheriff goes and gets warrants and picks up the ballots, in Arizona, when the FBI goes and gets valid subpoenas and then gobbles up data from the Senate president, it's a whole different set of tools. A whole new game is now before us because crimes are different than just civil claims. The State Justice Department instructed, this is the Rob Bonta Attorney General, to share any information that could substantiate its concerns. But those orders went unheeded, according to Rob Bonta. And he submitted this big, long argument. This whole thing, 70 pages, just got dumped. The Court of Appeals said, you're in the wrong location there, dum-dum. You have to go back down to Riverside. We'll take a look at it because he's probably just going to pick this up, take it back down to the lower court, submit it over there. But the story goes on saying Bonta filed in the 4th District Court of Appeal. That's the docket we just looked at. He asked the judge to intervene. He said, this is an abuse of the criminal process. The question, of course, is why didn't he start the criminal process? He's the state AG. He could have easily said, whoa, that looks like a pretty valid complaint. If the argument is that there's 45,000 additional votes that were added into the final count, that's a problem, Rob. How come you didn't go look at it? A 3-judge panel struck down Bonta's request, womp womp, writing that he should have filed this complaint with Riverside. Bonta's office said, oops, we're evaluating the next steps to ensure a swift and appropriate resolution. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you just goofed, you idiots. The sheriff has not identified any particular crime, they argue. Now, they say the Riverside sheriff doesn't know how to count, and they're not legally authorized to play the role of elections monitor. They're not. They're not playing the role of election monitor. They're investigating a crime. Apparently, there's some fraud going on. What happened to 45,000 votes? Where the hell did those come from? By all appearances, this investigation is a fishing expedition meant to sow distrust and undermine public confidence. No, guys, it's the 45,000 additional votes that are undermining public confidence in our election. Now, Bonta doesn't like what Chad is saying. the sheriff got 2 warrants in February, so another judge signed off on it, and got another one last week. And Bianco's is doing a great job on this, by the way, because he got the 2 search warrants. Then the AG said, stop what you're doing. He said, okay, I'll stop with these 2 warrants. Then went and got a 3rd warrant and proceeded under that, saying that all of this came from Riverside County Citizens Group. Now, Bonta has said the sheriff's department, his office reviewed the matter he reviewed did not have enough probable cause to actually go conduct these seizures. Now, none of the sworn statements or the evidence that Bianco presented were by the public or can be judged by the public. They're all under seal. Yeah, and I've been having a difficult time trying to get these materials. All of them under seal. The warrants were approved by Judge Jay Keel, another former prosecutor who also ran for the seat with Bianco's endorsement. Now, the citizens group claimed that Riverside County elections officials overstated the number of ballots that were counted in the November special election. Registrar of Voters, called Art Tinoco, has denied the group's claim, and he said, well, you just don't know what you're looking at, okay? There's incomplete data. There's a bunch of other ballots that are in there, confidential and provisional ballots and other things, which we'll find out. In a statement to Cal Matters, Chad Bianco criticized Bonta, a Democrat who's been the state's top law enforcement official. So Bianco is talking to Cal Matters, which is what we're reading. The questions should be directed only toward Bonta, said Chad. Why would you interfere and obstruct an investigation instead of assist us? What are you afraid of? Yeah, we know. Bonta is a corrupt political activist put in place by Newsy to run cover for corruption in Sacramento. Nice. They say, we've got studies that show voter fraud is rare. And more. Now, Bianco last week said that his own years-long probe of election systems has not found any mass fraud. Well, not yet. Now, Kim Nalder, another political scientist from Sacramento, who cares what she says? It's extremely concerning to her. Yeah, because her political party is about to get obliterated. Any recount would have lots of safeguards for manipulation. It's not a recount there. What's her name? Kim? It's not a recount there, Kimmy. It is just a total tally of the number of ballots that have come in. So, yeah, good luck. So he just got slapped down. He's going to file this, I'm sure, back down at the lower level court in Riverside. And so here's just a preview of what he said. So he said he wrote this 70-pager. We'll just hit the highlights. This is his petition that just got slapped down. He said immediate relief requested, like an emergency petition. And this is the publicly filed version, which was just recently released. And let's see what he's arguing here, because we're going to see this come back again. And then hopefully we can see the response from Chad Bianco and the other crew. They say last month, Chad Bianco initiated a sweeping and unprecedented criminal investigation, acting on reports by a local group that were publicly debunked by the same people who committed the fraud, which is amazing. The sheriff got 1,000 boxes of ballots and began a recount. It wasn't a recount, it was a count. It's a count of the total number of ballots. They're not determining who said yes or who said no or who voted in favor or who voted against. It's just how many ballots are there. You say that there is this number, but there's actually reportedly this number based on your own documents. So they cited grave concerns and the negative impact on the elections. Rob Bonta, the AG, demanded, we looked at the letters earlier this week, you stop everything. He sent multiple letters, seemingly very nervous about this. I'm the AG. I have state authority. I'm ordering you to stop your criminal investigation into us right now. Despite repeatedly representing that he would comply, he then went and got a 3rd search warrant. On March 19th, without notifying Rob, the AG, the sheriff went to court again and got an additional search warrant that purports to require a recount of the ballots. The application for this warrant not only violated my directive, I told you to stop investigating me, but it was also so facially insufficient that it didn't even have the basics. So then in a press conference, Bianco announced that he would continue his investigation, including his planned recount. But the sheriff repeatedly confirmed what is clear on the face of the warrants. He has no basis to believe that anyone committed a crime. Not yet. That's the point. Okay. Probable cause is a reasonable probability, fair probability that there has been a crime committed. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. You don't have to make the allegations. You go to the judge signed off on it. It's not Chad who just went in there and decided to steal the files. No. Judge signed off on it 3 times there, bucko. Rather, he told the public that this is just as much to prove the election is accurate as it is to show otherwise. And maybe it comes down. Maybe he goes, oh, yeah, you guys did a great job with the election. Nice job. You counted. You guys know how to count. Now, he said that there could be systemic fraud because there's pretty good evidence. There's fair probability of a crime based on the reporting that this third-party group did based on the own files, the own records that were published in California, showing, well, these are our final tallies. We have this batch, it's this number. We have this batch, it's this number. You have this batch, it's this number. We add it all up. That number is like 45,000 votes different than the main number of ballots. And we've seen this in other states where you have what apparently is a discrepancy between the digital votes, which is very curious, and the physical votes, which is why we got the ballots in Fulton County. Fulton County claims there were a total number of votes. They had weird QR codes and all sorts of missing votes, allegedly. And what happened is you got to make sure they match. The digital numbers should match the physical numbers unless you have a problem with digital inflation of the votes, where people are just keying in votes or something else is happening. So he says, he goes on, this is Bonta. He says the sheriff's actions launching an unprecedented criminal investigation needs to be stopped. The judges need to immediately intervene. The Court of Appeal said, we're not going to, so get out of here. Given this opening and continuing defiance of me, I'm ordering you not to investigate me. The important questions here must be resolved more quickly than would be possible by resorting to the trial court in the first instance. That's great. So that means that Rob Bonta knew that they wanted to bypass the lower level court. I can't go to the lower level judge. If I go there, he's going to keep counting these things. And the lower level judge is already, it sounds like, kind of in support of the investigation. I don't know if it's the same judge who signed the search warrant, but he doesn't want to go back there. So like once again, they go over or around the actual matter. He's trying to bypass the process in order to get a special privilege, right? Go cry to your mommy and see if your mommy can step in to help you. Mom this time said, no, you're in the wrong location. Get out. Additionally, if you don't have swift action on this, this investigation will sow distrust and jeopardize public confidence. And I think that's true, man. I think if we knew the true extent of just how fraudulent our elections are, genuinely, whether it's the CIA involvement, whether it's the Iranians or the Chinese stealing their registration databases, whether it's pallets full of ballots or, the ballot drop boxes or the memory cards being perverted or the seals being broken on the machines and adjustments happening and then logic and accuracy testing not coming in to validate it, whatever's going on, misappropriated paper sizes in Arizona so that there are lines out the door. You add it all up. If we knew the truth, I think a large part of the whole system would collapse. We'd all realize all of these people are illegitimate, literally. And then there goes your democracy. So the AG has a duty and authority to ensure that this goes appropriately. He's screaming mad. The sheriff's blatant disregard for me is causing serious harm that requires immediate redress to prevent further abuse. Apparently it doesn't. There are processes, but no one is following them. Instead, the sheriff has seized on perceived problems with the results in Riverside, and now he's appointed himself as the county elections monitor. No, he hasn't. He's the sheriff. He's investigating a possible crime, just like he does for many other crimes. And guess what, Rob Bonta? No one is above the law, sir, not even you. His defiance of my authority to do this is casting doubt, and it violates our constitutional order and creates a dangerous precedent if it's not quickly and decisively halted by this court. The court said, no, it's not that urgent at all, actually. Therefore, the court should exercise its discretion to decide this case as an original matter, and we seek an immediate stay of his investigation. Stop the count. The court should also then set an accelerated briefing schedule, consider this matter expeditiously, require the sheriff to comply with Rob Bonta's fraud, require the Superior Court order the lower judge to quash the warrant as legally insufficient, and stop them from counting the vote. And the judge said no to all of it, so you lose. He says the AG, by the way, I'm the chief law enforcement officer. I have discretionary power, and I can order the sheriff to do certain things. And the sheriff is ignoring me. And he willfully violated my clear orders, pounding the table. He got another warrant, a third time, even though I told him to stand down. This is a flagrant breach, which follows weeks in which sheriff respondents repeatedly ignored communications from my office. Man, shout out to Chad. He's acting like a total Chad right now. Shout out. Failed to timely provide requested documents. Actively misled us about the case. This court should stop this right now and halt all of it. And this is unprecedented. This is a criminal investigation without a legal basis. This chills voter participation. Yeah, it might chill. It might chill those 45,000 made up voters. They're not going to be able to participate because they're not real. Now, the AG takes seriously these allegations. And now I'm asking you once again to stop this. It goes on and on and on. He says, I've got jurisdiction over these things. And he continues on. A lot of the same stuff. The parties, we know who they are. Factual background. This was all about Prop 50. He gives us some of the final outcomes. There was the Riverside election integrity team. They conducted their own audit of this. They claimed their audit showed that 627,000 ballots had been cast, of which 16,000 were rejected. They say the total number of valid ballots was 611,000. But then the registrar of voters, they indicated that there were 657,000 votes that were ultimately counted. So we have a magical appearance of 45,896 ballots that just came out of someone's booty out there. The California election code says, well, you have to do this and you have to do that. And we got redactions here. We love that. So on February 9th, something happened. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department got a criminal search warrant for this, and this, all redacted. Then the night after that warrant, the discrepancies alleged by the REIT group were subject to a Board of Supervisors meeting. And we know how honorable they are, all these Board of Supervisors who all cover up for themselves. In a lengthy, detailed presentation, Art Tinoco explained why there was a number of various factors here, always a number of factors that explained 45,000 friggin' votes, including that they did not have complete vote count information. They used raw data instead of the actual votes. And the raw data that it used in the audit was prone to human error. Okay, so they're just idiots, I guess. And they don't know. By the way, the raw data feels like it's better than some human summary, right? Don't you want the raw data so you can analyze it appropriately? Like, how did it come in? What do the final tallies look like? What's the raw data? I don't need your summary of it. I want the data. So if you're the one who's coming to the bad numbers, you should explain your discrepancy, not them. He further explained that the handwritten forms upon which they relied to determine the number of ballots that were cast are not used by election officials to determine the actual vote counts. Again, so right, you have these batches, you have these various people who are working on them, and they say, okay, in this batch, we've got 5,000 votes. Okay, here, sign it off by these poll workers. Then another person. Okay, we got 3,500 in this batch. Here we got 1,000. Here's a 500 batch. You add all those up. You fill out the forms to validate and confirm what this one person did. If there's a problem with that, you can go back to that person. It's a chain of custody. Sign off on the ballots. So here they say, the raw data, we don't even use these forms. No. And the raw data, you're sorting your spreadsheet wrong. And we actually process votes that don't show up in the raw data. And so everything you're doing is wrong. Not us. The registrar only counts ballots using one system, the Liberty Vote System, which electronically scans these things, and the registrar tracks different data. And again, the grift is in the gray area. We say it all the time here because it's true. They overly complexify everything, right? It's a confusopoly. They have total control over the system. Only they can understand it. It's this big black box of mystery. And if they publish the data online and you analyze the data they published online and you can prove that your conclusion from the data they give you shows this, they still say, well, you forgot about this and you forgot about that and you forgot about this. And that's why you're wrong and we're right. No. Your data should stand on its own 2 feet. If it doesn't, that seems to me like there's fair probability of a crime. That's why this is now a criminal investigation and a search warrant was issued 3 times to go investigate it. So as a way to roughly cross-check these votes, these 2 data sets can be compared, but they're not intended to align perfectly. And virtually no county has a perfect match between the 2 numbers. Yeah, okay, that's fine if they're off by 100 votes or 5 votes. Not 45,000 votes. Members of the Riverside County Sheriff were present for that multi-hour presentation, redacted or redacted. The Sheriff's Department then, after that presentation, they're like, oh yeah, we got him. This is a crime. And you know how it is, even with your parents, if you have to like overly explain yourself, your mom's like, I know you did it, didn't you? Like, yeah. You try to, I was at my friend Johnny's house. Well, what time did you get over there? 9 o'clock. What time did you leave? Oh, over here. And no, we went to Timmy's. We went to this. Okay, you're busted. You're grounded. That's right. You got me. So that's what they're doing. All redacted. We can't see it. And they got 2 warrants. The registrar and respondents mutually arranged to execute the warrants. Then in February, the AG learned that they were about to go execute these warrants. So they sent him a letter. They said, stop investigating us. We sent them an email. Later that day, the AG, acting through the chief, called Sheriff Bianco and said, stop the execution of the search warrant immediately. You haven't filled out a proper search warrant, and you don't have probable cause to believe that there's a violation of any law. Now, rather than delay the execution of the warrant, Sheriff Chad instead accelerated the timeline of the search and the seizure of the ballots. Just a few hours after he heard from the chief, he says, thanks, chief, but no thanks. After learning that the warrants had been executed, boom, AG sent another letter Friday night. Said, preserve everything and pause your count until I come in and then rig it. Saying he attached a copy of the letter here. The letter explained, I am the AG. I have supervisory authority. I can do anything I want and stop your investigation into our state-conducted fraud. Finally, the AG expressed his concern, but Bianco didn't respond. He said, oh, no, we're going on. The AG also attempted to communicate with the sheriff, but was informed that the counsel's office is not representing the sheriff in this matter. Then in March, the AG learned that the sheriff had planned to proceed with their investigation the following morning. They planned to assign 12 employees working 4 days a week, 5 to 7 hours each, until they completed this. Then the AG sent another letter, said, stand down. Okay, this is the AG writing this. A true and correct copy of the letter was released. We, of course, read that here. The sheriff, he said, was blatantly violating my directives. He said, do not even think about doing it or I'm coming after you. And rather than confirming the compliance of this, the sheriff initiated their recount. Within a few hours, the sheriff then abruptly changed course. They got an email from Sheriff Bianco, the AG did, stating that he got the email. He said, I can confirm I'm complying with your letter. Fine, I'll stop the count. Then the AG sent him another letter. Despite these assurances, the sheriff then went back and had some more conversations. And then another lawyer responded to the letters. Lots of back and forth on this. And then, this is where it gets good. Despite the sheriff's previous assurance that he was standing down, unbeknownst to the AG, the sheriff went back and got a 3rd search warrant. What? And he restarted the recount. On March 20th, he convened a press conference. Then he accused the AG of trying to interfere with him, because he is. Then he said some things at a press conference that he's not happy with. And the AG says the warrant is insufficient. Redacted from the AG. And now he's not cooperating with us. And so they still have not given us any information about this. And I lack knowledge about whether a special master has been appointed. And so I'm the chief law enforcement officer. I have the basis for all of this. And so please, Court of Appeals, step in here and stop this from happening. Said, I want a writ of mandate. Quash the subpoena. Issue a peremptory writ. Give me everything that I need. Of course, Annie Bellows was the person who signed this one on behalf of the AG. And they got crushed. The Court of Appeals said, you're in the wrong location, idiots. So get out of here. And all of that urgency didn't matter a bit. So shout out to Chad, acting like a true Chad. The Court of Appeals denying their urgent and immediate request for relief. Now it goes back down to the lower level court, and we're looking forward to seeing what they do with this new holding, and we'll be back to continue on California. But let's also talk about what's going on in Arizona. Adrian Fontes, who was the guy who sent in conjunction with the Arizona Attorney General. We have our own Rob Bonta in Arizona, who's called Chris Mays. And she and Adrian Fontes, the Secretary of State of Arizona, they both sent letters out to county recorders and to other individuals in Arizona, like the senators and House reps, saying, if you even think about complying with a subpoena from the FBI to turn over election records, we're going to prosecute you and put you in jail. And of course, they are as nervous as Rob Bonta is. Now, what's curious about this is that Adrian Fontes and many of these other people continually violate the rules, and they pervert the rules for their own favor. And Adrian Fontes, just like Rob Bonta, just got crushed today in the state of Arizona, coming out from the Superior Court. And this is an interesting case because what they're trying to do at the Secretary of State's office is change the name of a political party such that it encourages mass voter confusion when you go to the polls. Very interesting decision here from a judge. Now, in Arizona, we've got a little bit of a recap on what happened in the most recent hearing. Now, here you see, we rewind the clock back to the hearing. 9 a.m., Arizona. This is the time set for an evidentiary hearing. A lot of people involved in this lawsuit: the Arizona Democratic Party, the Republican Party of Arizona, the Arizona Independent Party are all here. We've got Arizona Clean Elections Committee in courtroom 401. Court reporter Eve Burton is present. A recording of the proceedings is also made. This is a minute entry. Brief discussion is held regarding the allotment of time. Argument is presented to the court. Court stands at recess. The court reconvenes and argument continues, and the judge takes the matter under advisement. Says, all right, I'm not going to decide this right now. I will decide it shortly. Then we come back. The judge gives us the decision. He says this: the court now issues its ruling on the filings in this battle between the Arizona Democratic Party, the RNC, and the Arizona Republican Party, and the Arizona Clean Elections Commission. The following facts are undisputed here. The Secretary of State, Fontes, is a duly elected government official, and he has responsibilities to receive and review petitions from political parties who want to be on the ballots. In 2023, remember the No Labels Party of Arizona? No Labels Party with those people? What they did back then is they collected enough valid voter signatures to gain party recognition. They gobbled up the signatures. They got on the ballots. They submitted sheets that had signatures, and on the form, they called themselves literally the No Labels Party. So then what happened in March 8, 2023, Fontes issued a statement. He said, yeah, the No Labels Party exceeds the minimum signature requirement. They got 41,000 signatures, and that's their name. And because they got those votes, they are officially a political party on the ballots. So what happened next is we fast forward a couple years. October 8th, 2025, Paul Johnson, the NOL board chair, the No Labels Party chair, he comes in and he gives the Secretary Fontes a name change document. He says, we want to change our name to the Arizona Independent Party. Isn't that interesting? So from No Labels over to Independent, which is like a label, right? Oh, we're independents. Got it. Interesting how that happened. So what might that do? Well, it might cause people who are independents in name to go vote for this party rather than No Labels. They say, what the heck's a no label? I'm a Republican. You're a Democrat. You're an independent. Now the name is kind of smuggled into a name change. So it might distract people from voting Republican and maybe might vote them independent and water down the Republican Party turnout, right? So it goes on. So 2005, the No Labels Party that's not supposed to have labels gets a label. Weird. So then in October 16, 2025, The secretary called Adrian Fontes. He's like, I love this. Yeah, perfect. If this will pull people from voting Republican, we'll do it. He says the new name would be formally recognized 2025. Now, he acknowledges, he says the ARS, the Arizona law from Fontes, does not address the issue of political parties changing their names. In the absence of statutory authority, I don't have the power to do this. The general rule is to presume that conduct is not prohibited. If it's not prohibited, I can do it. So Adrian wants to change the name. On November 29th, the secretary issued a document. So he writes it. The law doesn't say he can do this, but he's like, I'll do it anyways. So the No Labels Party name change guidance, and he sends this out to county recorders, election directors all over the state. His document says the No Labels Party, and remember, 40,000+ people signed on for a petition for that name, not for any other name. He says, that's okay. They changed their name to the Arizona Independent Party, and they did not get more new signatures for that new party. The voters registered as No Labels parties are now registered as Independent Party automatically, unanimously, by one guy called Fontes. The guidance document instructs county recorders, you must convert the voters who are currently registered as No Labels to the Arizona Independent Party. Now, the secretary challenges, they got sued. So, of course, Arizona Citizen Clean Elections Commission sues them and says, you can't do that. That's totally rigged. You can't change the name of a political party. He says, the secretary, Fontes, they can't sue. They have no standing. And we battle that out a little bit. He says that the commission has responsibilities regarding Arizona's election process and how to accept clean election funds and other things. And they also can govern and have a say in how this name change occurs. So the court finds ultimately, to start, that there is standing and that this organization can sue. And other parties all jumped in here, okay? The Democrats wanted to go one way, the Republicans wanted to go another way. So the judge goes through and gives us some background. He says, first, yes, the Arizona secretary is an officer. He has to follow the rules. Arizona statutes say these are his powers. He has to determine if there are valid signatures and more. Now, the No Labels Party did follow the process and they were properly recognized. They submitted their petition. But unlike a new party, Arizona doesn't have rules about changing names. And if you permit a political party to change a name without going through the signature gathering process, it's not a ministerial act by the secretary, okay? It's not like changing the name of a corporation or something. It's a big deal. In fact, the signature process is important for policy. It ensures that a party appearing on the ballot has a meaningful level of support. It also prevents a plethora of parties from appearing on the ballot. When a person signs a petition on behalf of an aspiring party, it's reasonable to infer that they are motivated by how the party describes itself. He asks a very important question. Would the same 41,000 people who signed petitions to be No Labels, would they have signed on to support the Arizona Nazi Party? Or what if they changed their name to the Arizona Anarchist Party? By approving this name change without obtaining the actual signatures, it is a political bait and switch, Adrian. A party can gather signatures using an innocuous sounding name and then change it to something completely different. And if the secretary can do this, it has to be in the Constitution. And guess what? It isn't. So Fontes, once again, steps outside of the law. And equally problematic is the guidance to county recorders. You must now register all these people as independents. These voters did not register themselves as independents. And the secretary has no authority to dictate to which party a voter belongs. That's their decision. Both the secretary and the party argue that he has to undertake this name change, but Arizona doesn't have a procedure for that. And all election laws need to be enforced. He goes through some case law here. These are associational rights, and the signature requirement process is there for a reason. And the secretary even himself acknowledges there's going to be voter confusion if the name change remains in place. He even admits it. That's kind of the point. So in sum, the court finds that Adrian Fontes once again lacked authority to approve the name change, and as such, his name change is invalid and he loses again. So now the judge grants the motion for summary judgment filed by the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, declaring void Adrian Fontes' violation of the law, declaring void his name change and the new re-registration of all of the no labels people, saying his guidance is invalid, county recorders and other people don't listen to it, denying any other relief, and this is a final judgment. So once again, another hack Secretary of State is obliterated for doing things ultra-virus without any power. This is how they operate. They will just change things if it serves their interest, which it does here. So Carrie Lake, who is a major victim of this type of nonsense in Arizona, said, there was a time not long ago when you voted on election day and you knew the winner by bedtime. Then what happened is COVID hit. Lawyers like Norm Eisen and Mark Elias, two, in my opinion, criminals, dismantled election laws to flood the system with mail-in ballots and perverted all the rules. Election day became election month. In my 2022 race, we led on election night, despite the machines failing that day when everybody was waiting out the door because the paper was sized inappropriately. Then they spent 13 days counting mail-ins until my opponent pulled ahead. In 24, it took 9 days to count. One morning, we learned Yuma County had found a vault of mail-in ballots and then doubled their total. Weird. This stinks to high heaven. Americans have lost faith in our elections. If we don't end election month and restore election day with paper ballots, small precincts, and the results the same night, voters will stop showing up. And I think that's kind of the point, is if the voters don't show up and actually vote for candidates, then they can just rig the election and just make up, like in California, 45,000 additional voters to support their ultimate end goal. Here is Carrie Lake on with Greg Kelly.
CEO, and I love it. I'm very happy there. We're working to modernize the agency and right-size the agency, so all is good there. But I'm really excited about the Supreme Court taking this very important issue up. This is possibly the most important case they've ever had, in my opinion. As you know, there was a time not too long ago, Greg, when you would vote on Election Day and you'd have the results by that night. You'd go to bed and you knew who won. And then with COVID came crazy lawyers like Norm Eisen and Mark Elias really taking apart our election laws and pushing for mail-in ballots. And that's when all of a sudden we noticed Election Day turned into election month and election season. In my race in 2022, we were way up by double digits, and then Election Day hit, none of the machines worked, and then they counted mail-in ballots for 13 days. 13 days of counting before they finally said that my opponent had won the race. And, a couple years later in 2024, the same thing happened. They counted mail-in ballots for, I think it was 9 days. I'll never forget, I woke up one morning and we'd found out from Yuma County, Arizona, they just simply found double the amount of ballots that they originally had. They found them, they said, mail-in ballots in a vault, and pretty much doubled the amount of votes or ballots that came in Yuma County. It stinks to high heaven. The people have completely lost faith in our elections. And the next move is that the people will just stop voting if we do not finally restore Election Day. Take away election month, no more election season. Let's get back to what makes sense. Election Day, paper ballots, voting in small precincts, and finding out the winner on election night.
Yeah, that would be very nice to have that happen. And hopefully a lot of these reforms continue. California now winning in the Sheriff Chad Bianco case versus Rob Bonta. And I say California as in the voters who are hopefully going to get answers about their 45,000 missing votes. And guys like Adrian Fontes now losing their attempts to just kind of sneakily rename political parties and disenfranchise the voters who signed up under those named parties. They want to be the Arizona Independent Party. Go get new ballots. And the voters who support that can sign on to that. That's not what they want to do. They act outside the law. When you investigate them, they threaten you with crimes like Adrian Fontes has done, like Rob Bonta has done. But people are wising up to this, and that's why we want election reform and real elections in America. All right, now speaking of voter reforms, here's another good update. Voter ID victory out of Missouri. The Supreme Court now finding, according to the Attorney General out there named Catherine L. Hanaway, that they win. Back in 2016, Missourians voted overwhelmingly in favor of voter ID, but then the Democrats sued and said, this is horrendous. How dare you disenfranchise us? And today's win protects the will of the people and our common sense election integrity laws. And this was a lawsuit, as you see here, that was coming out of the Supreme Court of Missouri. Big, big win there. And we're happy to see it. Hopefully this can spread around the country like wildfire. Doesn't burn anything, though. Calling this one in the case that was on appeal from the Missouri State Conference for the NAACP, the Missouri NAACP, and also the League of Women Voters. Again, we hear all of these leagues, okay? These are nonprofits, 501c3s and C4s, were funded by Lord knows who, and three individuals called Powell, Kimberly, and John O'Connor. Not John Connor, John O'Connor. And this is one of the groups who is behind it. The League of Women Voters of Missouri. And back during COVID, we saw a lot of these groups, okay? These women do not want voter ID. The League of Women Voters opposes the National SAVE Act. We oppose the proof of citizenship required to vote. They can organize an entire league, but apparently can't go get a proper form of ID. Pretty incredible. So they're there. We saw this back during COVID, the Retired Alliance of Retired Missourians, the Retired Alliance of Michiganders, the League of Women Voters of Missouri, the League of Women Voters of wherever, all set up all over the place, and they sue. And they have a lot of financial backing to do it. And then they come up with these little, photos of themselves like we're fighting for democracy by enabling fraud to continue. And they should actually be ashamed of themselves, to be perfectly honest with you. But here's what the Supreme Court of Missouri had to say. All these people sued. They said, Missouri, by requiring voter ID, is unconstitutionally burdening our right and violating equal protection guarantees. Now, after a bench trial, the court said, sorry, women, you guys lose. The League of Women Voters, finding both organizations and all three people lack standing. If you were here in 2020, all of our election lawsuits, many of them were all dismissed based on the fact of standing. Said that they failed also to establish that the law was actually unconstitutional. Now, the Supreme Court, does affirm that the lower level court was right. They do lack standing. But they are going to reverse the part where the lower court addressed the constitutional claim. They said, actually, if they don't have standing, you can't address the claim that the law is unconstitutional. Okay, so standing is like you have to get over the hurdle. If you get over the standing hurdle, then you can address the case on the merits. The Supreme Court says they didn't even get over standing. And so therefore, we're not going to allow you to address the case on the merits, but ultimately the law remains valid. Here's what was going on. In 2022, Missouri passed and the governor signed the law. Once this was enacted, the law changed. Now, the law requires individuals who wish to vote to present either one of the required forms of photo ID or cast a provisional ballot. Don't have ID? No problem. We'll validate you. It's going to be provisional, and we may count it once we can validate it after the fact. Otherwise, present ID. Prior to being amended, the law permitted individuals appearing to vote without photo ID to use a bunch of other documents. Now, voters without a form of photo may cast only a provisional. For a voter's provisional to count, they got to come back to the polling place and bring ID. Not complicated. It also applies the same requirements for in-person absentee voting. So they hated that, the Democrats and the League of Women. They said, no, this is unconstitutional. It burdens our right to vote, and it violates the Equal Protection Clause. They sought a declaratory judgment. They wanted to stop the law from being enforced. The circuit court held a 5-day trial. After the trial, the court entered judgment in the state's favor, saying, go get a photo. It's not complicated. So they came out and they testified. This woman called Powell is a registered voter. Her non-driver photo Identification expired. Go get a new one. She suffers from a chronic seizure disorder that renders her unable to drive. Oh, no. She said that she has no need for a renewed photo except to vote. She said that as a result of her disability, she feels unsafe walking or using the bus. She's reluctant to ask for rides. She does, however, walk distances up to a mile in pedestrian-friendly routes, and she has rideshare services and other things. She stated that she can't walk the entire distance to go get a new license. But she said, I guess I could take a bus, or I could take an Uber. She said that her polling place is a couple of blocks from where she lives. So, seizure woman doesn't want to go get an ID. She can't figure out how to do it. Oh my gosh, this is what we're dealing with. Powell intends to vote by provisional ballot. She said, but I can't because my seizure disorder impacts my ability to sign her name. She's seizing out. Can't get on the bus and can't fill out the form. She expressed concern that if she casts a provisional ballot, an election official reviewing her signature will incorrectly invalidate her vote because she's seizing out all over the place. She's like Muhammad Ali. Okay. Powell voted by provisional ballot in a municipal election, and her vote was counted. Amazing. She also said that her permanently disabled voting list is an additional way she might vote, but we have to stop voter ID and photo ID because we have a spazzing out seizing woman. The circuit court found Powell has not established standing. There's not enough evidence to show that you are prevented from voting. There's like 100 other ways you can go figure this out. Circuit court noted that she lacked compliant photo ID, but she could get a new one. All she has to do is go renew her driver's license. The circuit court also found that she was aware of the permanently disabled voting list, and she could go get on a placement on the list if she wanted to without photo ID. So they said any burdens that she may suffer with respect to getting a new photo is not sufficient to invalidate the state law. Gosh. So Morgan is the next one. Let's see what her problems are. Says she's registered to vote in Missouri. Now, her voter registration card spells her first name as Kimberly. She said, yeah, that's right. Morgan has also a non-expired, non-driver photo ID. But, oh no, her name on that ID is Kimberly with an extra E in there. Oh gosh, it's incorrect spelling on her birth certificate. Wow. So I guess that means no voter ID for anybody because Kimberly has her name misspelled. So before HB 1878 was passed, Morgan voted with her voter registration card. She testified that she voted in person. She also stated that she did not attempt to vote thereafter for fear of being mistaken for voting fraudulently because her name is wrong. The circuit court found that the misspelling of her name does not legally prevent her from voting. Also found nothing prevents her from voting provisionally. While she stated she is aware she can vote provisionally, she's not done so because she's afraid her name won't match. And so I guess that's okay. So Kimberly, yeah, no voter ID at all, I guess, because her name's misspelled. So everybody can go vote, and there's no voter rules at all because Kimberly and the spaz woman. So O'Connor is another one. He's now dead. He was a League of Women voter member and registered to vote in Missouri. O'Connor testified via deposition. He stated he typically voted at a polling location within walking distance of his home using his card. His driver's license expired in 2016. And at the time of the trial, he had a non-expiring photo ID that permanently satisfied the law. Amazing. So he got his voter ID in order to vote. And O'Connor and his wife gathered underlying documentation. He spent an hour at his MVD, and he wasn't even required to pay for it. So the court found that his testimony about his injuries, not credible, whatever his injuries were. He had combative responses to reasonable questions, and he refused to answer certain questions. Guy's a jerk. Even if O'Connor's testimony was credible, the court went on to find that he had an ID and he could go vote. So this is what we're dealing with. So at trial then, the NAACP and the League of Women Voters, they all sued. The NAACP is for black people, colored people, according to their name, and they call attention to injustices and inequities suffered by black Americans, I guess one of which is the horrific inequity of getting a photo ID, which is just brutal for Black Americans, I guess, according to them. Missouri NAACP testified it advances this mission in a bunch of ways. And then the League of Women Voters also want women's suffrage so that they can go vote. And their job is to empower voters. Unless they have to get IDs, then the League of Women can't figure it out. So representatives came in and they testified. Nimrod is this guy's name. This gets better by the minute. Nimrod Chappell, Missouri's NAACP president, he said that after the law was passed, our information and resources are now all being tested. We have to expend this on educating people about the new photo ID. So now, since the law changed, we have to educate people, and our harm is that we're spending money on it. Marilyn McLeod, she's one of the League of Women. She said that now our organization also has to spend more money on this. We have to get out the vote efforts. We have to produce informational materials and expend money and resources to tell people about this photo ID problem. The circuit court said that, okay, well, none of your expenditure of resources matter. Organizational appellants, who are the NAACP and the League of Women Voters, they claimed that several Missouri NAACPers were unable to vote. There's a lack of photo ID. Nimrod said one member was turned away at the polls and denied a provisional ballot. When questioned about them, though, who was that person? And how come they don't have a photo ID? Nimrod Chappell could not provide a foundation for his belief that the members were even registered to vote. Okay, was he turned away because he was not registered? Well, I don't know. Okay. Well, you know he needs to be registered, don't you? McLeod from the League, she talked about two women, both of whom claimed that they were unable to vote because they didn't have photos. She did not testify whether they cast provisional ballots or more. So the court said, you guys are idiots and you sound like whiners. So no standing at all. There's no harm. And the fact that we passed a law doesn't infringe your rights. It's not an equal protection problem. So you lack standing. And because the court finds that, yeah, they lack standing, the court affirms that the part of the judgment concluding that they failed to establish standing is affirmed. So they don't have any standing. Go cry somewhere else. But reverses the part about the claims lacking merit, right? You don't even have standing. So we're not going to even address any of this further. So, all right, they go through standing. Here are the rules on standing. You actually have to have a personal stake in this, and they don't have any. First of all, considering the evidence in a light most favorable to them, nothing was actually infringed, and their fears that they may be infringed are merely speculative, and so that's not standing. Powell, she already voted. She voted twice after the law went into effect, one with her expired photo ID and one by provisional. So the law didn't impact her ability to vote. But she says, well, I have to go and actually get an official photo ID, and that's going to be a burden on me. But the evidence at trial said that she can go renew her photo ID at any time for free. She's done it before. While her disability makes travel more challenging, she walks up to a mile without spazzing out. She travels for longer distance. She uses the bus. She uses rideshare services and more. This evidence shows that she can go get an ID. And if she doesn't want to, she can cast a provisional ballot. Now, she's also fearing out that her signature might not match because she's jerking all over the page. Appellants introduced no evidence that her signature had actually been rejected. And so there's a presumption of validity, and she's fine. Okay, just sign it. Just whatever. Just sign it. They'll accept it. So affording them deference, the court did not err. She has no standing. She's already been voting, and her vote is counted each time. So the fact that she's like nervous about this or whatever, hopefully her seizures die down. I don't want to be too mean, but it's ridiculous. Go just vote. Considering all the evidence and the inferences drawn, she doesn't have standing. There's no threatened or actual injury at all. Just relax. Morgan also has a photo ID and actually has voted. So what if her name is Kimberly with an extra E? She's voted several times. Her fears that she may be turned away and may not be counted are purely speculative. And so once again, she doesn't have any standing. And then we have the dead guy, John O'Connor. At the time of the trial, he had a free, non-expiring photo ID. And he's talking about burdens that he and his wife might face. But he had valid ID. More importantly, the court found that his deposition testimony was not credible. He was combative, probably had a heart attack or something. Viewing the evidence and the inferences drawn, he, again, has no standing, and he has since died, so his claim is now moot, by the way, anyways. May he rest in peace. Appellants also say that the NAACP and the League of Women have certain members who can't go vote. But in order for an organization to have standing, they actually have to have members that have an injury, and they haven't done that here. Based on the evidence, the court found that their expenditure of resources were not enough to give them standing, and there's no associational standing either. And so Missouri's NAACP, they say, we can't vote because we can't go get ID. But when questioned about this claim, the NAACP, there's no foundation for the belief in any of this because they actually can go get photo ID. Similarly, the two women members who could not vote in person, could not even speak about it. They voted by provisional ballot. And because they lack standing, the circuit court's merits determination must be reversed. Okay, so no standing, which means we're not going to proceed on the constitutional claims. And so in conclusion, they don't have standing here. They failed to establish standing. There's no justiciable claim. And so accordingly, we affirm that the law is valid. Nice victory in Missouri. Okay, that's what we're dealing with here. So our entire election systems need to be perverted. We can't have any photo ID because we've got a seizure woman, Kimberly with an E, and a dead guy, right? That's their argument. And unfortunately, that argument has now lost. So how about photo ID for the whole country? Senator James Lankford from Oklahoma, he says 72 senators represent states that require some form of photo ID, just like Missouri does. Several already require proof of citizenship. Okay, this isn't a crazy idea. It's already happening across the country. The SAVE Act makes it the national standard and ensures only Americans vote. Here was Senator Lankford on with Fox after Chuck Schumer was having a fit about this on the Senate floor. Here's Lankford.
Well, we cannot get the whole SAVE Act through reconciliation. We can get some targeted funding, some incentives, try to be able to work towards getting bits and pieces. Basically, what we could do is make a down payment on the SAVE Act through reconciliation. That's a different track. We're trying literally every track we can on this. We've been on SAVE Act already 2 weeks. We're going to continue to be able to work on SAVE Act in the days ahead. There are 72 senators in the Senate right now that their state actually has voter ID. 72 senators that their state already has voter ID. There are multiple senators that are there that their state already requires proof of citizenship. For instance, New Hampshire. New Hampshire requires for registration proof of American citizenship to register to vote. This is not a crazy idea. This is something happening all over the country. We want to make sure it actually is the standard for the country.
Okay, I've got to go, Senator, but just really quickly, so you can only pass certain funding mechanisms because reconciliation is limited to budgetary purposes, right?
Right.
So where does that leave the SAVE Act? If you get that accomplished, how do you ever get the full SAVE Act? You have to get rid of the filibuster? You need 60 Republican senators?
Two tracks. We continue to be able to work on the SAVE Act, continue to be able to get the message in front of the American people, continue to be able to tell the story that Democrats literally live in states where they require vote ID, but they'll vote against voter ID when it comes to the nation. So we keep pushing this now for weeks, and we keep going on the pushing we're doing on the floor. But also we start working on another track to be able to start chipping away to get what pieces we can through reconciliation. So there's two tracks running simultaneously to get everything we can.
Well, it already has like 80% support among the public. So I don't know how much more work can be done to win the public over. It's winning those Democrats over across the aisle over.
Yeah, and the seizing out women in Missouri who are very nervous about all this. So anyways, here's Representative Luna. She says, we should just attach this whole thing to FISA. Okay, we know how much everyone in our government loves FISA because that's for them, not for us. And so here, smash them into one bill and then pass it. Here's Luna.
Okay, just an update. The Save America Act cannot pass through budget reconciliation. Thune and leadership in the Senate GOP are doing this because they think you're stupid. They are literally trying to get the American people to get off their back for the fact that they won't do one of the top things that the entire country wants. They are on the same page as Chuck Schumer and the Democrats right now on this. Overwhelmingly, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Black, White, Hispanic, Asian, everyone wants voter ID except for these people. So what did they say? They said they're going to do it in budget reconciliation. What does that mean? That means that this is a head fake. It can't be done. The parliamentarian will strip this out. So if you want the Save America Act passed, it has to be attached to FISA. I don't care what anyone else is saying right now. I promise you, they are literally lying to the American people. It will not get done if it's done in reconciliation. This is completely fake news. Do not listen to what Thune is saying. And yes, that still means I'm a no on reconciliation because guess what? No Save America, no bills for you guys, Senate.
Nice. All right, so I agree with that. We were speculating about that yesterday. They always do this. No. Just trust us. We're going to give you this big crap sandwich over here, but after that, we're going to give you a nice big hamburger. Turns out, nope, it's 2 crap sandwiches, and we're tired of crap sandwiches. So Luna is, I think, more on the money than a lot of the senators are. They just want to, they want to confuse us into oblivion and promise such a bunch of things that they can't deliver on. But fortunately, we are seeing some progress on this at the state level, and Missouri Supreme Court handing down a very nice decision, something to celebrate. And it just shows you how ridiculous this whole thing is. It's like we have the whole system is engineered for the lowest common denominator of people who are making up problems in their brains that don't even actually have problems. It's ridiculous. But nice win out there. Hopefully this spreads around to the rest of the country like wildfire. We'll be here to continue to cover it. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, friends, if you're just getting here, quick recap. We had a good stream today. Lots of good updates and good news. Of course, we started off with the update on the probe, the grand conspiracy probe out of Florida. Looks like it's picking up some steam here. So if you missed that, rewind the clock on this thing. We've got Brennan who has classified materials now being sent over to DOJ prosecutors, and he's not the only guy. Also, another transcript is going to be released of Michael Atkinson's interview with the House Intelligence Committee. Michael Atkinson, this guy who was a big part of Trump's first impeachment and the Russia collusion hoax, of course, now under a lot more scrutiny. 130 subpoenas have been sent out over to Comey and a bunch of other individuals. And of course, we want some justice in America on this issue. These people can't keep getting away with it. And it is heating up down there in Florida. So we covered that. Then updates out of California and Arizona. We got Rob Bonta versus Chad Bianco. And Rob Bonta just got the old backhand from the California Court of Appeals, who said, you're in the wrong jurisdiction. We read through the most recent filing of Rob Bonta, the one that he lost on. Where the heck did I put that one? There it is. The one that he just lost on. And you can tell he's very panicked. He's throwing his weight around saying, I'm the AG. And he was demanding that all of the investigation stop. Chad Bianco, the sheriff, is not letting up. We turned our attention to Arizona and saw how Adrian Fontes, the Secretary of State there, said that we're just going to change the names of political parties and re-register people to accommodate the name change, even though we don't have the valid signatures to do that. And even though no provision of the law enables me to do that, we just did it anyways. So he got backhanded as well. And Carrie Lake reminding us, election night, one day, paper ballots. That's it. We want some voter integrity. Then big win out of Missouri. Shout out, congrats to Attorney General Catherine L. Hanaway, and condolences to the seizure woman, the dead guy, and Kimberly with a knee, along with the NAACP and the League of Women Voters. Go get IDs, okay? Photo IDs, not complicated, ladies. Stop insurrecting our elections. Go do something useful. Gosh, ridiculous from them. All right, so now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. We go live at this time every weekday. We'd love to have you here. We also have a great members only community. We are on YouTube as membos. We do streams in the morning. We do streams on Saturday, and we have a great time together. So we'd love it if you came and joined us. YouTube, join as a membo, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you don't want to be on the YouTubes, check us out over there. And we're also on Substack. Links in the description below. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning for our members only morning stream extravaganza. But now, my friends, let's see what you have to say about this. I saw some great donos and I think some good memes that also came in this afternoon. And yeah, tomorrow we're going to hit this case, I think, in the morning. This was another big case. I was contemplating covering this one this afternoon, but it's kind of a technical decision. It's a lot of, textual analysis, which can be kind of dull, but we may hit it tomorrow morning. Thank you, Rick D, for this. Yeah, here's James Comey. We don't deserve to be let off the hook. That's right, James. You belong in jail. Hopefully that's coming soon. Hey, 10,000 feet with Rick. Shout out to Rick. Rick, you should send us a picture. I don't know if that's actually you or not. I don't think it is, but you should send us a skydiving picture so we can throw it in there. Rick D, 8th Circuit ruled the administration can hold illegals without bond. Pam Bondi was celebrating this today. This is a big decision. The decision is pretty technical and textual, but we'll very likely hit that tomorrow morning, Rick D, because it's a big, big update. We'll see what some of the fallout is from that and come back on that. Thank you, Rick D, for sharing the link on there. Hey, Tim Jake. Hey, Tim Jake again. Amazing. Tim, thank you for the dono. And thank you for being a member. We'll hit this one tomorrow. 8th Circuit reversed activist judge in the immigration case Avila versus Pam Bondi. Avila held without bond, waiting removal proceedings. Judge granted habeas relief. For many reasons, the 8th Circuit reversed and remanded. It is worth a look. I have it queued up, definitely. Yeah, I was reading through it today. It was kind of on the list, but maybe I should have covered it. Sounds like you guys are interested in that one. My apologies. But yeah, it's kind of a long technical decision. A lot of, this statute says this and this statute says that. So we stuck with some of the election stuff today, but it is a big one. So we may hit that in the morning. Tim Jake, thank you for the nice dono. Thank you for being a membo. We'll get into it as well. Hey, John McGarvey says, get your butt out of the house. Tell me about it, man. I've been thinking that too. I want to walk and talk through DC. I know that's the plan. Probably this weekend. I think we'll get to it this weekend. I'm still doing a lot of admin stuff. We're wrapping up stuff in Prescott today. I was canceling all the utilities and all that stuff. So a lot of emails and phone calls today. And then, yeah, you're right, John. We're here. We're here in DC. So we do need to get out and about. That's the plan. John, thank you for the dono. Thanks for watching on Rumble. And thanks for modding the fort down for us. Hey, Brennan, Dark Ginger. Brennan voted for a communist in 1979. Gus Hall. Yeah, John Brennan, the former CIA director, is a literal communist, or definitely was. And I think once you're a communist, you're kind of always a communist, unless you affirmatively disavow. Even then, you got to be doubtful about that. 33 months as a membo. Thank you, Dark Ginger, for being here for so long and for supporting us and for being a part of our community, building everything we've got here. We appreciate that, Dark Ginger. Communist, running the CIA. Ridiculous. Hey, Texas Knock in the house. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Newest membo over on YouTube. We'll see you tomorrow morning, and grab the stream from this morning. This morning, we had a good one. We talked about the Supreme Court. Judge Alito was calling out the other Supreme Court justices in the asylum arguments, oral argument. It was good. The other judges are just making up the law and then arguing about their made up words. And that's not how it's supposed to work. Thank you, Texas Knock. Hey, Alexandra. K8 in the house. Good to see you back. What's up? Hey, kept meaning to send this in. I lived in DC from 2020 to 2023. Actually, I think I found your stream while I was living in Alexandria. Food recommendations. Amazing. Yeah, food recommendations. Virtue Feed and Grain in Alexandria for the best brunch, and Bon Chon chicken wings in Arlington. They will change your life. Amazing, Alexandra. All right, we're going to save that one for sure. And let me open that in a new tab. We'll save that. Alexandra, thank you for that. And yeah, thanks for being over on Local. It's good to see you back and here. Thank you for the recommendations. We're looking for good recommendations. And we're just trying new stuff. We're just going out trying a bunch of new things. So yeah, and we're settling in. And so once we're, nice and settled, hopefully we can even enhance that more. Alexandra, thanks again. That's great recommendations. We're looking forward to testing them. Gauntlet KI. And we love chicken wings that'll change your life. That's always a good thing. Hey, Gauntlet. Status of lawsuit for emails / evidence back FBI. Are you talking about Judicial Watch's lawsuits? Judicial Watch has a dozen, maybe more lawsuits against the FBI and the DOJ. We've covered some of those. The most recent one was about the files, the 1.9 million files in the SCIF. We covered that one, I think, earlier this week, Gauntlet. But otherwise, I'm not exactly sure what the email lawsuit is about, but thanks for the dono. Funny Hat Enjoyer. Yeah, jury finds Meta and Google negligent in a landmark social media addiction trial. Yeah, it was $375 million or something was the total. It's a big deal. I'm sure they're going to appeal it. And I'm sure they're going to say that they're not responsible because of causation. They'll say you're a parent. It's your problem, right? You're supposed to go in there and monitor your kids. The response by the parents will say, well, we were listening to your advice. We were listening to your guidance. You said that you weren't doing these things and you had whatever, right? But they'll still, nope, it's not our problem. We actually saw a similar thing with, I don't actually, it's that similar, but the Supreme Court this morning, we talked about the Supreme Court had 2 decisions dropped this morning. We went through those as well. The tech company like Cox is not liable for infringement that's happening on its platform because they didn't have intent. They didn't have, kind of a willingness to support the copyright infringement. I think the same argument might be made by the social media companies. Like, we're not intending to addict them, although I think there's good evidence that they were actually intending to do that. Anyways, thank you, Funny Hat Enjoyer, for the dono. Thanks for watching over on Locals. We appreciate you. Michelle Parsons, what's up? Can any/all of those who conceal documents be charged with obstruction as well? Yeah, that would be my argument. And I would say they're part of the conspiracy, and the underlying crime is obstruction, right? They're in a collusion-ish conspiracy amongst each other, and the underlying predicate crime is obstruction. There were some people who committed the crime. There were other people who obstructed the crime. Yeah, and could that extend the timeline as well? Exactly, Michelle. That's exactly my argument, actually. That on the way out, like Joe Biden's people, Christopher Wray and the other FBIers, they were backfilling, they were shoving these materials in secret closets and in skiffs, and they were putting them in the prohibited file system that nobody could even find in order to obstruct. And what were they obstructing? All of their fraud. So it relates all the way back to what the original crime was. And so the statute of limitations would be extended all the way up until the final moment of obstruction. If I was prosecuting it, I think that's an argument we're going to see. Sharpie guy, what's up? Am I misinformed that Boasberg was cahooting with the Democrats before he okayed the warrants that there were for the Republicans to search their phone records or something like that? Yeah, we covered that yesterday, Sharpie guy. So that was and we posted a segment on that today about judges colluding with Jack. And we read through a newly released report that was an AG memo that was sent over from the DOJ now to Chuck Grassley in Congress. They released it for us to read. And in there, it's Judge Beryl Howell, who literally had a meeting, ex parte meeting with Jack Smith's goons. And Judge Boasberg was scheduled for a March 18th meeting. The meeting was back in January, and he was scheduled on the list, an update for Merrick Garland, that Boasberg was going to meet with them. This seems beyond repair, Rob. It's criminal, I think. I mean, it's ex parte. They are colluding, and they are violating their oaths. So it's certainly politically impeachable. But after that, I would say it's a conspiracy against the rights of the defendants. They were working together to undermine the rights of the defendants. Once the defendants got involved in the process, it was already a foregone conclusion they were done. Rob, please offer up some hope for us peons, which we're amongst that class, no doubt. You know, we're all the peasants of our government. And keep our big old boat steering on course. We love you and Alexis more than you truly know. Sharpie guy. Still, brother, we love y'alls to your guts. Man, Sharpie guy, thank you, man. I love you back. And I really appreciate you being here. And thank you for the nice comment. So I thought today was kind of a hopeful segment on, I know, people are getting irritated that it's taking so long, but I think we're seeing some pretty good progress on the grand conspiracy probe, genuinely. Because documents are now being transmitted from Congress, like the prosecutors are gobbling up evidence on John Brennan. 130 subpoenas have gone out. And we got this new guy, Atkinson, Michael Atkinson, who is now also going to have his transcript unsealed. So this evidence just keeps bundling up and bundling up and bundling up. Yeah. Thank you, Sharpie guy, for the dono and for the nice comment. Hey, the Supreme Court just ruled that parents are allowed to opt their children out of being indoctrinated with LGBTQ plus propaganda. I saw that. When did that come out, Rick D? We were live this morning and we had the 2 Supreme Court decisions drop, and I thought that was the end of it. Was that later on in the day? Was it a denial of a petition or something? We'll have to look into that. Rick D, thank you for that. Sent that out of an airplane. Hey, King of Biltong. Try our selection of Peri Peri Biltong. Great Biltong flavor with added mild heat, over 50% protein, packed with B vitamins, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. Get those minerals with your meats. BiltongUSA.com, code Robert. You'll save 10% off. Thank you, King of Biltong, for the nice dono, for watching on Rumble, and for making delicious, juicy meats. Hey, biology always wins. What's up? That's a strand of DNA. Are those ribosomes? Hey, what's up? Biology always wins. Bringing in a new membo. Lord Lost. Biology, thank you for being a membo. Lord Lost, we'll see you tomorrow on the morning stream. Grab the stream from this morning as well. It was a good one. One old guy. Shouldn't an AG know that investigators are not the judge and jury that find that the evidence show beyond a reasonable doubt that the crime was committed by the defendants? Yeah, it depends what AG you're talking about. If it's Merrick Garland, they don't really care about any of those normal things. Maybe Rob Bonta, I think, is who you're talking about. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't care. Yeah, he wants to apply a higher standard. So he knows that a search warrant is based on probable cause. He knows what the probable cause standard is, which is a fair probability that evidence of a crime will be found, which is like, pretty simple, pretty low standard. So they then pervert it and they want to raise the standard to then exclude the search warrant. No, it's actually more like, there's strong evidence of a crime, or beyond a reasonable doubt is kind of the standard they're inching towards without saying it. If you apply the higher standard at this stage, then the search warrant would be invalid. But the higher standard doesn't apply at this stage, which is why it's only probable cause. So it's by design. Like, they know what they're doing, and they just write it in a way that they hope the judge will grant. And judges often do. Biology always wins. Bringing in John M. Pacific Northwest in the house. What's up, John? Welcome aboard. Biology, thank you for bringing in a new friend. Hey, George Garbanzo is here. What's up, George? Thank you for the nice dono, George. The studies the Dems are sharing show how many convictions for voter fraud there are. This doesn't mean what they're trying to spin it to mean, that it isn't happening much. What it shows is the lack of investigations. Yeah, they say it all the time. Yeah, voter fraud is very rare in this country because no one prosecutes it. No one investigates it. There's a handful of actual investigations. Nobody wants to disenfranchise voters. And it's actually should be like the way that it is. We should have no voter fraud because the systems are good. And if you open and unleash open investigations, the investigation itself is like a self-eating, cancer. It's like a tumor in the body of the American politic. It's not good. If you have to go in and validate entire elections, that's why everyone is reticent to do it. Back in 2020, we were hopeful that we would see some progress on this, but we very much didn't because no judge wants to overturn a state election. Nobody wants to find fraud. If the County Board of Supervisors finds fraud, guess what? They're all going to get fired. How did you enable county fraud? How did you enable state fraud, Secretary of State? So everybody, it's like a defense mechanism. If there's massive voter fraud, the whole system comes crumbling down. So nobody wants that to happen, which means voter fraud continues, unfortunately. And then they come out and say, well, there is no voter fraud because no one's looking for it. That's the point. Yeah, George, you nailed it. Thank you for the nice dono. We appreciate you. Hey, Wild Things. Rob, won't the ballots already be counted by now? So if the order comes back again as to stop counting, will it really matter? Yeah, it's a great question. I think part of the problem is we can't see a lot of this. Like, a lot of this is under seal, as the court has, as the article mentioned for us. So I don't know where they're at with it, honestly. And you'd think so. I don't know how long it takes to count 650,000 ballots, but probably do it pretty quickly. So it might all be moot. We really don't know. Has Chad Bianco kind of stopped the count? Now, like, the appeal came back down, has he restarted the count? Is it like, okay, guys, count, like counting. Okay, judge said stop counting. Okay, stop. Okay, turn it back on. Count. Okay, stop. Is it that? It kind of feels like it's that going on, but we don't really know. And it's been frustrating. I've been trying to find these dockets and get these documents, and they're all under lock and key. Hey, it's the Monkettes. Good to see you, Tony. Thank you for 2 of these. We've got, how about proof of employment to vote? That would take away most of the Democrat votes. Think about, I'm not talking about people on Social Security because they have worked. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, what kind of a stake do you have in the system? If you're on unemployment or on SNAP benefits, like for your whole life, like a perpetual recipient, and you're not a contributor, I'm in favor of supporting our fellow citizens, right? you go through bad times, I think we should support you much more than an illegal alien who comes here, gets a hotel room, gets healthcare, gets childcare, has maids who clean their rooms like they did in New York. We saw the video. I'm in favor of supporting my fellow citizen. I'm in favor of that. But if you are a perpetual person who is in kind of unnecessary taking mode, then what that incentivizes is the continual taking. And I think that those people are just going to continue to vote themselves a raise. And what party is going to give them continual raises? Well, the Democrats, on the back of the other people who are more productive. There's a whole book about this called Atlas Shrugged. Tony, hey, Munkets, my point is, on my first super chat, the elected officials would have to please the working class, the people who are actually the producers and who make things and do things, by providing jobs. It would force them to do their job. Yeah. Yeah, and you get into the problem where you may have a tyranny of the majority, right? If enough people are on the dole, then they're just going to keep voting for more benefits from them at the expense of the people who are the producers. It's a problem, which is why we used to have, more strict rules around voting, like owning property and things. Rubos, jihad has reached our sleepy country. Mill Valley police accuse a church vandal of a hate crime. An East Bay man was arrested on suspicion of a hate crime after he allegedly vandalized Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Mill Valley. He was sitting inside the church reading the Quran when he was arrested. Man, the Rubos, thank you for that. I'll pull that one up, take a look at that. Got that open in a new tab. It's not good. Reading a Quran in the church while vandalizing Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Mill Valley. It's not good. Importing a bunch of people here who are misaligned with American values and who are willing to go do these things at sacred spaces is going to lead to perhaps a religious war, and that's not good for anybody. Jay Marino, thank you, Rubos, rubosaltshop.com. Hey, why is it only white men as a class are not prejudiced by voter ID laws? It's a good question. I don't know. It's a good question. Women and minorities as classes are incapable of getting a photo ID. Well, the Missouri NAACP has some members. I can't speak for all of them, but the Missouri NAACP has got some problems. And the League of Women in Missouri also have some problems. So I see a lot of women and minorities on airplanes. I must be mistaken. No, that's true. I do see them on airplanes too. Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. Hey, Ruthless Mindset says incredibly illustrative indictment. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I like it. The triple I's, man. Good alliteration. Incredibly illustrative indictment. What was the other one I said? Impeccable, incredible indictment. Also good. Yeah, good stuff. Ruthless. I like it. Incredibly illustrative indictment. They're criminals. Hey, thank you for the nice dono, Ruthless Mindset, and the good alliteration. Julia was here too. I've been married 4 times and I changed my name 7 times and I never missed a vote. That's great. That's great. Easy. Easy. Julia, thank you. You should go to Missouri and show the women and the NAACPers up there how to do it. Apparently they can't figure it out. Thank you, Julia. Hopefully your new marriage is going very well and it's a good one. Hey, what's up? And thank you for being here. Thank you for being a membo, Julia. Great comment. Tony, hey, Munkets, what's going on? 5 new membos coming in. Hey, it's the Munkets bringing in MAGA Squash. We got Paul Curl, Prince of the Cats, Major Bad, and Super J Michael in the house, who are all gifted membos coming in courtesy of Tony. Hey, it's the Munkets. We'll see everybody tomorrow. That is Rick. Hey, that's you, Rick. You look great, dude. That's awesome. Man, you look great. I was trying to compare and contrast. And Rick, we saw the video of you, refereeing the pool games. So I couldn't compare and contrast the two, but man, you look great. Look like you're having a lot of fun. What jump is that? 10,000 feet with Rick. You should do a podcast on the way down. That'd be great. Rick D, this is actually me. He made a GIF out of it. Amazing. Rick, that's awesome, man. Shout out. You look awesome, dude. Hey, and thank you, Muffin, for doing that. It's a great GIF. Or GIF, however you want to say it. TW56AZ says, Bonta sounds terrified, weak, and desperate. 100%. Yeah, the whole thing is about basically I have power over you and listen to me and stop doing what I told you to do. He does sound terrified. TW56AZ, man, thank you for being here for 25 months. That's multiple babies. We appreciate you. Chubby, a DC walk and talk would be great. This weekend, I might miss it though. Getting my yearly solo vacation and will be in Ventura, but can try to catch it. Enjoyed this show. Been a lot of black pilling lately and been putting me in a cloud. Hence the Ventura weekend trip. Glad to get a burst of good news. Thank you, Chubby. I'm with you on that, man. There's like, there's a lot of chaos out there in the news. There's a lot of infighting there in the news. We're trying to, provide an alternative to all of that. Stay positive, stay optimistic. Our thoughts become our realities, genuinely. Like if you think it's going to be a bad day and a bad outcome, it's going to be a bad day and a bad outcome. If you're just putting out black pill doomerism out all the time, you're going to create that reality. And, there is a lot of positive things going on. And so thank you, Chubby, for saying that. We're trying to be, useful and positive here. Thank you, Chubby. Rhino Poop, immense, impeccable indictment. Dun, 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 dun. Love it. Immense, impeccable indictments. Good one. And large liars lawsuit. Hey, switching over to L's. Love it. And there's a lot we could do with this. I like this pattern that we're on. Hey, Lenny Malley, don't do it for me. Do it for Lenny. Like, share, and subscribe with everyone you've ever met. Please and thank, and God bless you all. Thank you, Lenny. It's Lenny. You have to oblige. Dan, the election results for Prop 50 has already been determined and certified back December 25. That was about Riverside. Even the 45,000 weren't enough to change the state or the county election results. No, I don't doubt that, Dan, but I think the point is if you find 45,000 that were fraudulent or added somehow in Riverside, perhaps that same pattern is happening across all of the other counties. So you go to Orange County, you go to LA County, you go to, so on and so forth. And maybe you find the same things happening there. Maybe that is enough to invalidate, but even if not, even if you can't prove it in the other counties, I think it still shows that, there's some pretty big problems in California. Thank you, Dan. The appointed counting special master. Hey, it's the count. Maybe that's how they're counting the ballots. Sheriff Chad Bianco got in the Sesame Street dude. Oh, this is one ballot here. This is two ballots there. Dan, what about those men who took their spouses' last names? I guess they too won't be able to register after the SAVE Act is passed. I guess not, yeah. Especially the League of Men voters in Missouri, if there is one. Going to be struggling out there. Thank you, Dan. Hey, Julia, I've been married to Steve for 15 years now. Man, awesome, Julia. Shout out to Steve. Shout out to your marriage. 15 years, that's a long time and a good one. Sounds like you guys are having a beautiful marriage, and congratulations to you both. Thank you, Julia. Thanks for the fun comment and for the follow-up. Rhino Poop, Titanic traitor trial. Yes, it is like the Titanic. Yeah, they tried to sink America, didn't they? Tony Hay, good one, Rhino. Thank you. Tony Hay, when I was a kid, I was on welfare. It was embarrassing. My mom had no help and she had to do it. I like to think I paid it all back. I have no problem helping people, but I want incentives for them and options. Yeah, I think that's the point, is like now it's like a business model, right? Like have certain amounts of kids and don't make enough money with your other sources of income and hide your other income. And it's like a business model. You just get on welfare and maximize your government benefits. Or you go, I'm going to go open up a Leering Center and I'm going to go take care of my parents and my wife's parents. And we're going to build a government for senior care. And we'll just live off the senior care. Like there is no shame. You're on EBT or SNAP. It's like, well, where's my money? I'm entitled to it. I'm an American. The billionaire should pay for it. And if you have enough of that, you create this, this mass of people who are more takers than they are providers, and the whole system collapses on itself. And you end up in $136 trillion of debt. And the country is insolvent. So not good. Tony Hay, shout out. I'm glad that you and your mom sound like an amazing family. We have the best moms here. Dan, yes, it shows fraud that is trending in the state. Yeah, so even if it is just one county, it could be extrapolated to all of the other counties. And if there's a 45,000 vote problem in Riverside that the state AG did not investigate, the question, of course, is why? Is he investigating any other voter fraud? Because you missed that one, and that's a big one. Michelle, hey, Rob, did you hear about the two Iranian sisters working in Silicon Valley who were arrested by the FBI for stealing and relaying company secrets back home? No, I did not. I would love to hear more about that one. Yeah, that sounds like an interesting one. No, I did not see that. Did the DOJ announce that? I'll look into it. What company? As my follow-up, Michelle, I did not hear about that one, but thank you for flagging it for us. I've got that opened up. I'll take a look at that tonight, and then maybe we can talk about that tomorrow morning. See what's going on. Maybe even grab the indictment. Sounds like a good one. Friends, thank you so much for those very nice donos. Very appreciative of those. And we thank you for sending those in and supporting our work out there on the day. Let's take a look at some locals comments, and then we'll wrap it up on the morning. Yeah, on our members only morning stream, we got a couple of comments over here. What's going on? The Veil says there are independent reporters who are concerned that Larry Ellison is taking everyone's medical records. If this is true, that violates HIPAA. Medical records are yours. Here's my opinion. For this Oracle foreign asset family and company to be allowed to gobble up our medical data needs to stop. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with this story. People have had it wrong for decades. It's not the governments that destroy the country. It's very wealthy people with monopoly corporations who act like gods. Yeah, it's called a plutocracy, which is government by the wealthy. It's not really a democracy or a republic. It's a plutocracy, or you might call it a kleptocracy, which is government by theft. When we look at the financial company power the senators of Rome were involved with, they destroyed Rome, and it's at work here in the USA, period and truth. It's a good comment, The Veil. It's true. That's why we call it the Uniparty, but it's everywhere, right? And they kind of lecture us like, oh no, like, you know, fight amongst yourselves, like black versus white, gay versus straight, one religion versus another religion, old versus young, boomers and millennials, like it's all that. Turns out it's just the ultra wealthy who are pitting us against each other. So we keep knocking each other in the mouths and they keep gobbling up power, just like what happened during COVID. So, hey, thank you, The Veil. Talking about YouTube ads. Thank you for that comment. I don't know that I have much sway over YouTube or how they handle much of that, but thank you, The Veil, for the comment. Rhino Poop, another alliteration, immense, impeccable indictment. And Amy Ann, when people get caught screwing people like Carrie Lake out of winning, will they get reimbursed the millions of dollars it costs for their campaigns? I doubt it. No, I doubt it. Yeah, I mean, who's going to pay for that? I doubt it, Amy Ann. A lot of that, I think, is going to be, I don't know, Michael Flynn just, I think, got a big settlement with the FBI. I don't know what that settlement was, but, you know, it's an uphill fight, to say the least. Trudy, I got to go. It's not you. It's 2310 here. It's snowing and windy. A normal day in Scotland. Man, Trudy, thank you for watching over from Scotland. Show is international, baby. Shout out to our friends in Scotland. If there's another person who's from Scotland, shout out. Hey, thank you, Trudy. Sleep well. Hopefully you have a great rest and a beautiful night. And friends, let's take a look at what's happening on X, and then we'll call it an evening. Of course, members, we'll be back in the morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time if you care to join us. We'll have a great stream, follow up on some of the comments that we talked about. And NeuroD, thank you for sharing this, sharing the Locals link. So if you want to be a member, come join us on Locals, watching thewatchers.locals.com. We do our morning streams and our Saturday streams over there, along on YouTube and on Substack. Armored Saint, hey, what's up? Thank you for this. I'm a huge fan. At this point, to my followers, he's the only one worth following on YouTube because we keep it real. No political spin, just legal takes using legal docs. Man, thank you, Armored Saint. We get a little, I think, opinionated here and there, but the truth is it's in the documents, right? You can take a look at the documents and see exactly what is happening in there and come to your own conclusions if you disagree with us. We got to keep it a little lively, and add some flavor to the court documents because they can be sometimes a little bit dry. But thank you so much for saying that. And thanks for following us over on X as well. John Allen. Hey, John. Hey, Rob, glad you made it to DC safe and had a good trip. I was watching yesterday's video and thought that I'd let you know that Vienticus says hi. Remember Vienticus? Yeah, our former mod. He's doing well, but writing a lot. Already finishing up book 6 of his Enchantress series. Wild. 6 books, started book 7 and another book series, although this one will probably push all the wrong buttons for people. That's the right way to do it. Have a wonderful day, my friend. Shout out to all the watchers. John, thank you for that. I think you sent that a couple days ago. Thank you for that. And shout out to our friend Vienticus and all of our former friends who've moved on to greener pastures. ... 9. Rob, I'm from Mill Valley and know that church. This is the statue that I remember. Probably sharing a link on that or an image on that. Yeah, the statue maybe is the one that was in the article, perhaps. I'm an American man. Sun's out, guns out, baby. It's warming up. You know what that means. Biceps. All day, every day. 24/7 curls. We have to outlift the left. You can do some other exercises if you want, as long as you don't skip your biceps. Hey, John, thank you for that. Cuckoo's Cam, 41 months as a membo. Thank you, Cuckoo's Cam. Hi, Rob. Hello, Cuckoos. Thank you for being a membo for 41 months. That's multiple babies. I don't even know how many. Have to do long division for that one. But we appreciate you being here. And man, we've been through a lot together, a lot. And hopefully much more to come. And so, friends, once again, thank you for sending those in. And was there another one? Did I miss one? Oh, yeah, I almost missed this one. Hey, Rob, check in to see if you got my dono. Oh, yeah, we got it. It was at the end of yesterday's show. Yeah, so sorry we missed it. I think that came skidding in after we were closing out. I just haven't had a chance to watch all of the streams, but I'll watch it. Sorry that we missed you, John. Hate when that happens. Sometimes they come skidding in as like we're ending. And there's a little bit of a delay on the stream, so sometimes we're closing out, something comes in. I try to catch those, but I missed it. John, thanks for the reminder. And Mod John, thank you for forwarding that on and making sure that we didn't miss it. Friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Of course, we're coming back tomorrow. We will be getting into it again. Hopefully you can join us. Members in the morning, and we'll be back 5 p.m. Eastern time for another enjoyable episode of Watching the Watchers Live. Tony, hey, maybe we should change the hat to make America a land of opportunity again. Make America an opportunity again. From hey, it's the Munkets. Yeah, you can come here and earn, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, as it were, earn your way, add value and contribute, versus, which is the culture that we want, versus come here and just take everything because you feel like you're entitled to it because you're an illegal alien and you say that this is a due process problem and you're a refugee and it's our obligation to take care of you and feed you and raise your family for you. I'm an American man. Thank you for another one. Great Eagle 1 gifted a membo courtesy of I'm an American man. What a lovely day it is. Lots of new membos. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow morning when we're back here, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We'll see what the day has in store for us. But friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Thanks once again for subscribing. Thanks for liking the video on your way out. And tonight, I hope you have a beautiful rest, sweet dreams, and you return tomorrow because we're coming back here and we're getting into it again. And in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Thank you to our amazing mods and meme smiths who mod the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly out there. We got Muffin Rando, Donut Mind Me, John in the House, K-Bean, Carrie B, Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Elliot, Just Rhonda, all mod in the fort, keeping things nice and orderly for us. And Rob says there's a video on YouTube where a guy interviews a doctor that says he sees the Muslims with multiple wives driving expensive cars and using EBT cards. Yeah, I think that's happening a lot. Look at Minnesota, where it's happening with Leering centers and hospice care centers all over the country. Everyone else is trying to work their butts off to make it work. All you got to do is become a billionaire, open up a Leering center, and you're rich. Friends, we'll leave it there. Have a great night. Sleep very well. Thank you for the donos. Thanks for being membos. We'll come back tomorrow and see you right back here. Until then, make it a great night. Sleep very well. We'll see you back here very soon. Until then, be well and bye-bye.
Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care.